welcome back to year 4 of ALGS Split 1, day 4. Happy Sunday. I am so excited today because last week we saw the end of the first round robin run. Say that 5 times fast, I dare you. Anyways, now we're gonna see teams A and B go back at it again today. Now, before we get to game 1, we have a lot to talk about, but thankfully, I don't have to do it alone. I'm Stella Chung, and today I'm joined by the incredible Onset.
Hello, how are you doing? Thank you very much for the introduction, Stella. Hello, everyone at home. And good news or bad news, depending on how you want to look at it, we are going to be over a third of the way through this season after the game day is done today, which means that points are starting to be at a premium for everybody who's playing in this lobby today. It's going to be a lot of fun, but also a lot of serious business to take care of.
Oh yeah, and to help us break down that business, and someone else who is also quite premium, welcome Gaskin, hello!
I have been known to be pretty premium, yeah, it's not the first time someone said that. Great to be here, of course, excited for another match week, and I can't wait to get into it. I mean, we've seen these two groups go up against each other already, so I kind of have an idea of what to expect, but of course, teams would have had a chance to kind of change things, change their drop spots, change their plan. We'll see what happens.
Yeah, also, can I just say how handsome this this caster box looks today? Like, not to be a little bit, you know, but I think we look great today, and I'm so excited. But I do want to talk about a team that we have always seen be really great, and I'm really sad about this news because I am a huge Yuki fangirl, right? So let's go ahead and talk about the Alliance roster change. Onset, I am devastated.
Yeah, I mean, we're all sad. This is going to be the last week that we do see Yuki on this roster. And I mean, it kind of harks back to what we were talking about at the start of the season, which was Alliance were the team to beat. And things haven't been going great for them. And Yuki has decided that it's his time to just step away. And Alliance are obviously going to be looking for another pickup. But it's an opportunity to celebrate, I think, what Yuki has brought to Apex Legends. He's a fantastic player, one of the most clutch players we've seen as well. So many big moments have been from the point of view of Yuki. And, you know, one thing we can all agree on, I think, is that the Apex Legends community got a little bit less handsome because the man is leaving, unfortunately. But you know, it's sad to see him leaving, but we do get to see some Yuki gameplay today. He is going to be on that roster, and I'm excited to see if he can pull something special out in this last time he plays.
I really hope so. We're going to talk more about Alliance later, but also Gaskin, I wanted to, I know obviously Yuki's still going to be a sub, but do you have any dream team pairings for the next third?
There's a reason why I changed my hair. There is rumors suggesting that Alliance want to pick me up, but I can't, guys. I can't. All right, I have prior commitments. I have to commentate. Honestly, I don't think we'll see like a previous Alliance member. I think that it's likely we'll see someone new come into it. Mark was talking before the stream, probably a controller player because that seems to be the meta at the moment. 1 mouse and keyboard, 2 controllers. So I expect them to kind of dig around, see if they can find any top fraggers, and then someone's going to get the lucky chance to join an incredible organization like Alliance.
Yeah, Onset, do you agree with that? No IPN's return or anything?
As funny as it would be, I think, yeah, the controller fragger is going to be certainly one they're looking for. Maybe a controller anchor player, someone who can play on that catalyst. But we know that Alliance like to mix their comps up probably more than anyone. So someone who's a little bit flexible. I think if you're at the top of the kill leaderboards, you're probably keeping an eye on your DMs over the next few days.
Yeah, all right. Well, let's also keep our eye out on the overall standing. So
right and ready, we could look into it. But it's going to be A and B competing today, and I'm very excited, Stella, because we have some massive squads. And when we saw A and B first go up against each other when this split began, we were wondering, like, what contest were we going to see? Which teams were going to jump out? But we have already seen a few squads that have really stepped up.
Yeah, so we all saw these teams play each other. So we're going into today with definite expectations of all the participants here. So I do want to talk about some of the teams that are doing better than we expected, which is always a lovely surprise. So I want to talk about a team that I have also talked about last week, but ANC outplayed. I mean, they showed up and they have this amazing roster of Andy Jax, Shex, Madfrax, and they have been doing really well. They had 59 points day one, and they were able to turn around their games. I mean, they are in 7th place right now, and you can see from the percentages here, Stormpoint is kind of their weaker map, but World's Edge, they obviously shine here. They've been really great at playing rotations, taking up space. I mean, their circle positioning has aided them in getting higher placements. And you know what? We can't ignore LVH, who's not that far behind, outplayed, tied at 9th place right now with LCGF on set.
Yeah, I mean, LVH came through the qualifiers to get into the Pro League, and it's not like this is a new squad with players who haven't been in the Pro League before. You got Vibes, you got Jay Hanzo, and you've got Lifin. And speaking of Lifin, he's third in the overall kills at the moment with 24 kills to his name. But one thing that is a concern, as you can see below their beautiful logo, is World's Edge, because World's Edge has been abysmal for them so far. They have averaged, I think, 2.3 points per game, which ain't gonna get it done. Stormpoint's been carrying the way for them, where they have put up 12.5 points per game, and if they can just improve the World's Edge, then things are going to be very, very good for them, Dan.
Yeah, then we look over to one of my teams with a favorite logo that I have seen. 2 Rats 1 Controller is a squad that have just been consistent, to be honest. They are one of these teams that have been banging out 14, 15 points so far each series that they've played, and across both maps, which I think is what is very important here. When you compare it to LVH, compare it to Outplayed, 2R1C do it on both Stormpoint and World's Edge, which is going to be extremely important in getting towards playoffs. But then what happens once you reach it? That would be my question. What is the next level for this squad?
Yeah, and obviously your squad is very consistent on both maps, which I'm kind of jealous of, but we also want to talk about teams that have been very consistent overall in their performances with this full round robin run. So last week I also spoke about Element 6, and they were definitely giving ANC a run for their money with their roster of Oslab, CJ, and K Swinny. So when we saw this group last, E6 had 61 points day one, but day two, we did see them slide into 3rd place with 26 points, and Stormpoint is their stronger map, which is always great going into the day, knowing that you're going to have great points. But World's Edge, it's not looking so great for them. So they've definitely faced some difficulties with rotations and getting into circle on time. And I mean, they need to get into circle from mid to late, because otherwise they're going to be losing out on placement. So they're definitely going to have to find their consistent pacing. But let's go ahead and talk about 07.
Yeah, 07. All right, Nasty, here's your soundbite that you can talk about on stream and, you know, have a conversation about, because I know you love to do so. I had some reservations about this squad coming into this season, but it has been business as usual. But I will kind of put an asterisk by that. Nasty, Nags, and Amphi, there's been some really big games when you've needed it, and you have put those performances in when you needed it. One real big standout stat for me is they've had 3 top 5 finishes so far this season, but of those 3, they've won 2 of those games. So that's the conversion rate you want when you get into a top 5. But Stormpoint has been shaky. World's Edge, the old favorite, has been where they've got the majority at their point. So if they can improve their Stormpoint, and they're fighting a little bit on some of those tough rotates, then I think 07 are going to be right up there at the end of the season.
And then we've got ALGS and Hungary, another team who have been consistent across both maps. As we would expect, business as usual. Matafi kinda unlucky. An incredible trio who win gunfights and have such a high ceiling. They are scary when it comes to how many points they can accrue in just a single game. They were able to get a victory plus 13 kills during an initial match week. So I think ALGS and Hungary are a real threat in this EMEA region, but they are kind of performing how we expected.
Yeah, we always love talking about teams and their strategies. But speaking of 07, we actually got to speak with Nasky about his team strategies this year. So let's take a look.
Hey, I'm Nasky. My teammates are Amphi and Nags, and we play for the team name 07. We like to position ourselves into a good spot that we can fight from. And then whenever someone circles our team, or maybe multiple teams, what we try to do is look for openings, look for damages, look for kills, look for anything we can do. So what happens often is that we either get some knocks or we get a lot of damage, but we can't necessarily full send it without it being completely safe. So that's why we have a lot of high stats, but not necessarily kills. But that's all going according to plan, and it's us looking for opportunities more so than losing out on anything. Us having fun as a team is a major role in why we succeed, because having fun directly translates into confidence, and confidence is necessary for us to provide the results. On top of that, we're able to pick ourselves up in case we have bad games. So having fun is a major part of our team, and I think that's the reason why we're doing so good. Damn, that was the best one. That was the best one. Come on, Mike, come on. Let's go, baby.
I love that energy so much. Oh, guys, why can't we have that much fun on here? Come on, get your energy up. Anyways,
Let's go,
so obviously
baby.
they're having fun.
See, we can do it.
Love it.
We're taking our time, all right? We're waiting for the game, Stella.
Okay. You know what? He did say everything is going according to plan. So on set, would you say those plans are going really well? Or do you think that they're going to mix things up today?
I think the plans are going well so far. Like I mentioned when I was talking about them previously, I think if they've had some big games when they've needed it. I think if they would have had a couple of games where those wins weren't there and they were kind of a top 5, top 6, maybe there would be a bit more concern. But I love what you said about having fun, right? Having fun is great in game. If you can keep that kind of, fun factor about your team and not get too bogged down in the moment, it means that you can play without pressure. But there's also the flip side of that, right? It's about locking in those important moments of the game. And they've shown with their conversion rate at top 5 that they can do that when it matters.
Yeah, that's true. And speaking of teams that might need to lock it in this week, I mean, I gotta start with Separate Cats. Love them. But I mean, Clevie, Ranches, and Xenia, we need to see them find their footing. They've been struggling. They've been sitting at 20th in overall standings. But last week, we really saw them struggling to survive through half the matches. And we did finally see them win their first game on World's Edge. But you can see that World's Edge is where they really shine. And Stormpoint, only 31%. It's not looking good. Now, they could be warming up to the structure of Pro League's competitiveness, but they're going to have to start winning their fights on drop and surviving more consistently to at least top 5 before getting their points up. So I don't know, but let's talk about our fan favorite beloved team Alliance on set.
Yeah, Effect Yuki and Hackis, making sure I just get the roster in because I'm not going to be able to say that moving forward. But I'm going to very quickly touch on Alliance. Everybody knows it hasn't been good enough from them. There is going to be this team change. We're waiting to see what that's going to be. Stormpoint and World's Edge is pretty even split, but it's the point totals that are not up there for Alliance. So a lot for them to work on, and a lot of eyes are going to be on that team.
And then we've got Vamo Korea, who have been through it all. Sadly, the plan that Kashira had is not going to come to fruition. South America bringing to Portugal hasn't worked out. Kings leaving the squad, going back home. But it means we get Postkill back, and I cannot wait to see Postkill back on this squad.
Yeah, and we did get to talk to Kashira about his team and some strategies that they have going forward this season. So let's go ahead and take a look at that interview.
Hello, I'm Kashera, my teammates are Sans and Postkill, and we're playing under Vamo Querer. Well, the plan is definitely to do better. Mainly our Stormpoint. That was the map that really hurt us in the first round. And hopefully the new approach we are trying, it's gonna work, and it's gonna put us as contenders once again. And hopefully we can keep the work that we are putting in. I think we have to focus on the small details. I think that damage differential showed that tactically we approach the game correctly. It's just some moments of the game, some crucial moments, we weren't able to come out on top, and those moments would have made all the difference. I felt like the game we played deserved at least a top 3, but those details were there, and we couldn't overcome it. And we just put in the work, and hopefully this weekend we are able to overcome it.
Yeah, I am super excited to see if they did put in the work and if it's going to pay off this week. I mean, on set, I love a team that's able to look at the details of both what they're doing well and what they need to do better on.
Yeah, I think it's been a little bit of a turbulent week or so for Kashera and co. Understandably, we know we've seen on Twitter that, like Dan mentioned, there's been some unfortunate team changes that are kind of been forced a little bit, and they've got some work to do. But one thing that can bring a little bit of confidence back is the old friendship, the old partnership. Like you mentioned, a Postkill coming back alongside Kashera. So there's a lot to work on for them, but Kashera is one of the hardest working players that you'll see in EMEA. So I think if there's work to be done, he never shies away from it, and I'm looking forward to seeing how they put things right.
Yeah, I'm really excited about that as well. So let's go ahead and get into match number 1. I'm going to hand it over to you and Gaskin to lead us through the action. Thank you so much for speaking with me. I am so excited to see what these teams bring.
Thank you very much, Stella. Let's do this, Dan. How are you feeling today, buddy? Are you awake? You're on the West Coast. It's so weird now that you're like an American, like a secret American.
Just
like an undercover American.
Yeah, no one knows I'm here. Actually, no, everyone knows I'm here. It's legal, everyone. Don't worry, don't worry. But yeah, I'm feeling great. I can't wait for A and B to go up against each other once more. I mean, I think that we've started to see patterns emerge a little bit now with the meta and how everyone's playing, but this is when people need to start changing things up. You can't just go with the flow here if you are struggling a little bit. We might start to see more aggressive compositions come into effect this week. This will probably be the first week where it could really happen. So I'm excited. It's going to be fun.
Yeah, I think one thing we should start to highlight as well as we head towards our first game is how contests are going to be working, right? Because it's 3 weeks in now. 3 game days have gone, and contests, if they haven't been sorted out and you are on the, shall we say, the lower percentages of winning those contests, I think it's time to start looking elsewhere, right? Because game days are starting to disappear. We are getting through the season. Before we know it, we're going to be over halfway through this season, and points become a premium. And I think you have to kind of put the ego aside a little bit and say, hey, look, if this team has been performing well, who's been winning on our contests, and they're in a position to yeah, I think it's the time for experimenting is starting to disappear a little bit. We are seeing a little bit of composition change from some teams like you mentioned, but I think here is where we start to see teams really knuckle down on what they want to do, how they want to rotate, and what fights that they want to take. Well, the wait is over, everybody. The dropship is live, and Gaskin, I've got to be honest, mate, kind of hyped for this one. Game 1, we're underway, and we're starting on Storm Point.
Now, we were seeing contests happening up at Wall and down at Coastal Camp between these two groups. Originally, it was Cybercats. It was 40% worse. Will that happen again? Are we going to see it? 40% worse. They're going to be heading on down, but are they going to be taking a fight?
Well, we'll have to keep an eye on this. It looks like at the moment they're lonely, which is usually not a great sign, but in Apex Legends, it's usually a pretty good thing, to be honest with you. And they are going to be able, over here at Coastal Camp, to pick up their loot uncontested. So that's one of the answers, right, that we were looking for. Is there going to be a certain contest? Is there going to be a little bit of a change of things? Well, if we go over to the other side of the map, right to Northpad, you can see the answer.
Yeah, Vamokura have moved away from the wall and they've gone to take a fight here against Mine. Now, it's not the first time we've seen Vamokura move to try and take fights against certain other teams. They're also a team who like to loot quickly, get out, and get to the late game. So we'll have to see whether this fight actually happens and whether Vamokura are just going to be taking loot off of Mine here.
Well, for now, they have the height, you would say, inside of that building. However, you've got those loot pills on the far side, the very northern side of Northpad. And I always find it interesting here, right? This is a decision that's obviously been made by Vamokura, right? They weren't getting the better of Red Dragon over at Wall, so they've decided, hey, let's try and contest here. But even a contest win here at Northpad not the best POI in the world, doesn't give you the hugest loot pool. So the fact that you're having to split this, plus you're going to have to use some meds, it's going to affect the long game, but this is what we mean, right? Teams' hands are being forced a little bit in these situations. It's like, hey, we'd rather play with less loot if we can actually get into the game and force our way towards an end zone.
It does look like Vamokura are looking to take this fight as well. They have been able to kind of lock Mind into a corner here, and they've got the high ground. I mean, this is a fight that should be won, and they are getting damage done as well. The reward for winning this fight, they have a ring console here. They have got the ability to be able to use that, but post-kill from behind.
Oh, and Sens might go down as well, and it's all up to Kashera now. The initial damage was all one-sided, but this decision to go and invade a POI, well, unfortunately, the invasion is going to be rebuked because Kashera is going to have to try and and escape. They also don't have the Loba here, excuse me, to get away. Excuse me, they do have the conduit, which is what I was trying to say, but my brain is not working quite yet. So they will be able to craft banners, but the question is, can Kashira get away? I don't think he can, Dan.
Not a chance. A slither of health. You can dive, dodge, dip as much as you want, but even with an ultimate here, the likelihood is Kashira should go down. They are trying everything at the moment, but it looks like it's going to be an unsuccessful attempt of... Wow, what is happening here? Wait, one more split second and maybe there was a chance, but it is going to be Vamos Correa going... Vamo Correa, excuse me, going down. Not Vamos, that's very different. But that means that Mind will get the ring console, and we can start talking about where everyone else is on the map. Mark, was a ring console down at Coastal Camp as well for Cybercats, and the circle is going to be moving towards the southern side of Storm Point here. So this is going to be fantastic for those teams who are around Barometer, Coastal Camp, Echo, because they're going to be able to move very quickly into Barometer. Other teams who did find a ring console on the map, I think Lightning Rod had one, so we did see Alliance able to grab them, but 07 have already positioned themselves in this southwest area of Barometer that I'm talking about. A lot of teams are going to start joining them here as everyone's heading towards this zone.
Yeah, it's a really strong build to be holding as well. You can see they're going to be in not just for this zone, but also the next one. They do have that ring console information, like you mentioned, and this is where they play their best game, right? 07. They've got some pretty good armors to work with as well, considering how quickly they did get to this spot. 1 purple, 2 blue, so they're going to be able to take a little bit of space outside of the building. They're going to be able to poke and prod and see if they can get some damage out to get those evos up even more. But Storm Point has been the question mark for them, right? We were talking about that when they're split. World's Edge has been where they've got the majority of their points, but if they can lock down a position like they have now and play from there, then that's great news for them and gives them an opportunity to put some points on the board here on Storm Point.
You saw on the kill feed as well, just knocks happening in and around Barometer as teams having a little poke it and a prod at one another just to try and inflict some damage, get those Evo shields up a little bit, whilst all the northern teams continue to make their way down towards Barometer. Everyone on the southern side, aside from LVH, has already found their way into the circle. So it's a pretty safe rotation for everyone who was dropping on that southern side. It's a little bit more difficult for those on the north. Remember, Mine took that fight, and it was a fight that was slightly elongated, so they're going to have to take a long journey from north to south. And then we've got a few teams in the middle of the map right now. But most people who are in Barometer, it's just a case of waiting for the next couple of circles to go through to start deciding on what the plan of action is going to be.
Oh. I mean, we're seeing a little bit of Sentinel playing over in North America, but I mean, Fricks is bringing the longbow back and he's hitting triple-digit headshots. And it's a perfect weapon to find if you're at the top of Barometer. You're going to be able to output a lot of damage towards anyone who's trying to rotate in, and should be able to get those blues up to purples very, very soon as well. Also, they've got the conduits, so they're not going to have to burn through too many meds up in this position, which is always a little bit of an advantage. One thing that is really is a little bit of a bugbear of mine, right, is when you see people ripping through cells when they're sat in zone, when they've got a conduit. It's like, use the Q. Comes back every so often. You know, get those shields back. Keep the meds for the end game.
Yeah, get a nice little bit of temporary shields and just ensure that you can keep poking and prodding. But Alliance, they're making their way in here and doing some good damage too.
They certainly are. Let's jump into a listen in here. It's Yuki's last dance. Let's see if he can be involved in this fight.
They have Watson.
There's someone's getting shot on the low.
Hey, guys, listen to me. If no one comes from west, yeah, there's a team on Sino Choke. We need to start like we gotta have to kill the team on their back maybe. Okay, later. Let's try to get the armors. That's the only thing we have, to do right now.
Yeah, that's what I'm doing.
Give me.
Okay.
Do you have a side flash?
Yeah, I'm shooting.
Dark, listen. Okay. I'm losing too much FPS, bro. I'm gonna close the string. Okay, flash you open to him.
Okay.
$180 for purple, okay? I don't have Q. I have Phoenix for you, it's good, by the way, Sean.
There was a team here on Sino Choke. You're playing on the cube, all of you.
Wait, this.
Yeah.
They're going bust, careful.
They're bust,
going
yeah.
bust. The team under is going bust, they're split.
I think this is Natsuki.
It's the same team, either way. They have conduit Bangalore.
Fuck them. Give me.
Well, it was a little bit of a parallel universe there. We saw Alliance, but we heard someone else. But the good news is Alliance do win this fight, but they have lost effect here, Dan. The question is, can they get them back into the game? The answer is in front of your very eyes, because they do find a respawn beacon that's available for them to get their top fragger back in the game.
Yeah, and one thing that Alliance have always done very well is make themselves look big. Look at how they're trying to inflict damage to keep teams away, to try and be as big as possible, but it looks like they are going to be pressed by the full English at the moment, but I can only see Noises and Bryn, so perhaps, no, okay, there is a full 3. I was a little bit concerned maybe it was a 2-on-2. But when you've got a team holding down a building like that, dealing that much damage, it's not really worth to try and push and take it, because you leave yourself vulnerable at this stage of the game to a third party. So that's why full English are saying, hey, let's not give up our position. We've got the rocks to play with, and let's stick to it right now.
Yeah, they're playing the island. This could be in and around where the end game does go. Speaking of which, here's your map overhead to show you how everybody is stacked up. Mind, we did see, obviously, they're going to be very slow on their rotate. They're going to be trying to hit a few crafters on their way down to get themselves into a position towards the end game when they're approaching zone to be healthy enough to fight their way in. Of course, they have that contest, which is going to slow them down as well. But back to full English, back to what you were saying. This position is going to be good for end game, and I think they just missed their window of opportunity for a third party. And like you say, smart thing to do. You miss the window, you make sure you don't get knocked. Hold down that spot and look for the longer game instead of the few KP you might have missed.
So 20 seconds until zone closes, and every team bar Mind, who we saw take that opening fight, have found themselves in this circle. So this is very congested at the moment. As I say that, another team goes down. Pest Control finally have their third player eliminated and taking out of the lobby. But this is where things are going to start to get a little bit more dicey. Everyone has found room to play, so this zone closing isn't necessarily going to initiate fights just yet. But when people see where this zone pulls for zone 3, that's when they realize whether it's make or break. Do we have to go for fights? Can we find a position? Are we in a safe spot already? And then that's what can sometimes force fights to happen, because people start to move early.
One team who's going to be terrifying for anyone to face, you saw them just momentarily, is E6. E6 are currently on the eastern side of this zone, holding down the hill, which kind of overlooks everybody who's stacked up in Barometer, and they are already kitted out in full red armors. A few crafters would have been hit on their way through to make sure that they're in a position to fight. So you don't want to be taking a little bit of damage and opening the door for them to move in and take your spot, because they don't need to be asked twice. LVH, the team that I was focusing on as one of the ones who are having a great start to this season of Pro League. Well, they're inside of Barometer. They're on the northern side of it, but they're having to coexist at the moment because Red Dragon are underneath.
Yeah, I think LVH were pretty happy with this zone dropping down at Cenote. They didn't have the ability to scan a ring console, but because they saw all of the movement happening in the sky and people generally moving towards Barometer, they had a pretty good idea of what was going to be happening. So they made their way, they found themselves a nice little comfy home, and they've been able to reside here for quite some time, as have a lot of other teams. But you can see people do have neighbors. People are residing in the same building at this point, and that's when things start to get a little bit worrying.
Yeah, and I think LVH are aware as well that the team underneath them, well, they might not know it's Red Dragon, but from some of the shots that are coming in, this is a controller-based team, so they're going to be very, very difficult to fight in these close quarter areas. So they're kind of just showing them a little bit of respect here. Both teams just playing this one out, waiting for a mistake to come, not trying to force things. And why would you with 18 squads alive, right? If you take this fight, 18 squads alive in one of these priority buildings and you lose it, even if you win, you're probably going to take enough damage for a team to think about that third party.
And one thing that the Bloodhound scan will do for them is it'll give them an idea of the composition they're going up against. And if they can see on the outline it's going to be a conduit, you've got to be careful taking this fight, because technically in a 3v3, LVH have the better comp here, but that is good opening damage. But I don't think they're going to press on it. It's not enough to run up a stairwell. You put yourself in such a vulnerable position, forcing yourself into a chokehold where you could be absolutely blitzed.
Yeah, and the conduit, of course, is just going to stagger the fight even more, because you're going to be able to hit that Q. Everyone gets their shields back a little bit more. You can't play off that initial damage, so you just have to be a little bit more reserved. So Red Dragon probably going to be waiting for that next Bloodhound scan to be available before they try and make any kind of play. But elsewhere at the moment, just looking where the zone is going to be pulling, 07 we mentioned earlier, they made a quick rotate. They're in a fantastic spot on the southern side of this zone as a little bit of damage comes in, and they're going to try and triple swing this one, and they will get that first knock. Lifefin tried to get a little bit greedy there.
Yeah, Red Dragon just really wanted to force this fight, and now this is going to be the benefit of having the Bloodhound on your squad, because smoke goes down, Beast of the Hunt activated, and now you start to use those scans to your advantage to see through those smokes and give your team the little bit of extra info. Now, they have been able to retreat inside the building here. They are making it difficult for Red Dragon, but you can see no other team is trying to press on this at the moment, and they have good cover from other angles. As I say that, they are starting to get griefed a little bit. We do need to be careful.
Yeah, I think they need to try and clean this up as quickly as possible here, Red Dragon, because it's one of those situations where if you don't push and you don't clean up the fight, then you can take a couple of shots in the back and it becomes a 2v2 extremely quickly. So yes, the conduit is of course going to slow things down a little bit with that barricade coming down just to make a little bit stickier and a little bit more awkward to slide down and deathball to get those final 2 kills. But I think they have to be a bit proactive here. Try and get this fight done and dusted and claim this building as their own.
Not only that, because the circle's coming in. This building is not going to be in zone, so they need to finish this fight and then think about where they're going. Elsewhere, Alliance took down the full English. They took the island off of them, but the island is also not safe. The bridge just about is. If you come to the southern side of the bridge, Alliance will be able to play underneath it, and they should have a good angle. But there is so much teams in Barometer at the moment that even if Alliance get there, they have to think about how they get past these squads to get to that far southwest tip.
Well, Noise is last alive, and Red Dragon, oh, this is what I was worried about. This is what I was worried about. The opportunity has not been taken, and now because they didn't try and be proactive in this fight, it's turned into a 2v2. The battery gets popped just in time, but now Vice flies out, and Red Dragon will look back at that and think, how have we let that happen?
LVH putting on a masterclass just as a 2 and wiping Red Dragon off of Storm Point. Now, E6, 40% worse. 2 giants in this lobby. 2 teams who certainly know how to fight. 2 teams who are safe in this building. You can see the zone has now closed, but are they going to be able to position themselves for the next one? Because the zone is moving even further southwest now, where you were talking about it. 07 in prime position in one of the best buildings at the moment. They're also joined by the likes of August and Hungary.
I mean, we did see LVH get taken down, but one thing that puts a smile on my face is the fact that we got the big boy back in the lobby. Gibraltar's back, everyone, and it's Mandy who has the Gibraltar. And let me tell you, I've been theory crafting, and I like this pick a lot at the moment. I think there's good value in what Gibraltar can bring in the current meta, and we don't have time to really deep dive into it right now, but with Mandy and a Mastiff and a Bubble, you can see it's very difficult to make any progress against.
Mandy, Mastiff, and a Bubble sounds like a TV show that I would definitely subscribe to, and maybe it will come in 2025. But at the moment, 40% worse. They're just kind of trying to hold off this team. They're happy to reside together right now, but in 33 seconds, you've got to move. And they've just used their bubble, so they want to delay as much as possible to have that bubble for their bit of movement as Alliance. This is what I was worried about. Once they got past that bridge, they start to get creeped by the squads that are already in zone, and effect has gone down.
Packets will fall as well. It's all up to Yuki. I've said that before, and oh, what a spray that was, but it's not enough. Even with the damage coming out of the R9 to take that final player down. So Alliance once again have a little bit of a shaky start here in game number 1. But I mentioned E6. E6 still hungry, alive and looking good. 40% worse, looking a little bit shaky. Mandy on the Gibraltar, like I'm going to mention 100 times today, is finding himself as last alive. And that's a little bit unfortunate because they had pretty good prio to this zone. 40% worse.
Yeah, 40% worse off at the moment, sadly, losing 2 of their players, and we'll have to see whether Mandy can do some magic as the big man himself, as teams starting to fall out of the sky as they try and take the evac tower, because this is now panic stations, all right? Everyone who was in the northern side of Barometer trying to move down to the south. We're probably going to see about 6 squads wiped in this very moment. This is when you need your controller players to start popping off.
Everyone trying to force their way in now, and usually we talk about Barometer being a POI where you can coexist pretty comfortably, but when it pulls down to this southern side, everyone has to move across open ground, and that's why you're seeing a lot of teams start to fall. We now have 14 squads left in the lobby. One of the teams we were talking about who had a good couple of weeks was ANC Outplay, but they're down to just 1 at the moment. Make it 0. They will be eliminated. Mine go down as well. 40% worse fall as well, Dan. We are losing teams so quickly.
Yeah, I think we just lost 4 in the space of just 10 seconds. Passion get eliminated. Infinite also doing some great damage here, and it should be another squad getting wiped. And it will be confirmation stay healthy go down. 9 squads now remain. Can Infinite reset here is my real question. I like this attempt, just trying to dipsy doodle around the outside, but it might not work out.
Second just on the map overhead to survey the damage. Exo Clan now down to just 1. They will be down to 0. 2 Rats 1 controller also eliminated as well. And E6, you saw it there. CJ or Cracked, however you want to refer to him as the kill leader in the lobby. They are starting to pick up kill after kill as Cold now sit on top of the height of Barometer, but they're going to have to move across some open ground in around 25 seconds.
Yeah, it looks good right now, but it's not going to look good in 20 seconds. The teams who are really having a possibility of winning this game, in my eyes, 07, ALGS, and Hungary. They're the two teams who are holding the prime spots. Aftermath with a shout as well on the western side, excuse me. I did a mark. But now, with 10 seconds to go, Cold have to think about, do we try and go over this? Do we try and go through it? I don't think they have an evac tower available, so they're just going to have to try and fight their way out of this one.
So a little bit of peace, finally. As everybody is safe-ish for now, E6 try and move ahead of the traffic, and I love this from them. Even though we're seeing the Bangalore op come down, the Rolling Thunder, they're going to be able to survive it long enough and not take damage as well, which means they now can move off of this little position they were bunkered down in to use these rocks as great cover to look for third parties. And I think they want to try and push this position under the bridge. And there is your answer. And there is Slab with a turbocharged Havoc, causing Havoc himself.
Yeah, this is onto ALGS and Hungary, and they were holding this position for quite some time, but E6 knew this could be a good spot. This could be a spot that could potentially win them the game, but ALGS and Hungary are stalling this one, which is going to be a frustrating scenario for E6, that's for sure. As elsewhere, there's plenty of action happening. E6 continue to push forward. Infinite go down. 6 squads now remain.
Wingman and a dream. Good shots coming in. Amphi now tries to overextend to see if he can get a few kills in that position, but wasn't able to, so has to retreat. But the fact that E6 came out of that situation down with everybody still healthy is incredible from them. Making that play, making that rotate. Great shout out to Swinny there, as well as the execution from the two Slayers.
Oh, Tyler, for Cold, just last man standing, does some damage, goes out with a bang, and is able to take down a player with him as Cybercats now get eliminated. And we find ourselves in the last 3. It's E6, it's Aftermath, it's 07, and it's always difficult in this situation. Who do you push? Are you going to be more aggressive? Do you try and wait? Do you try and stall things out? You've got 30 seconds before the ring starts to really get aggressive, but that damage is just going to now encourage the fight to happen everywhere.
I think I saw Swinny tweet something like Havoc balanced as he beamed someone off of a roof the other day. And here's the example. Swinny's found his gun, everyone. And let me tell you, it does damage. That is another clean wipe. Nobody goes down. The shield swaps are comfortable. And now it is a 3v3. But damage already been done. And I tell you what, I don't see E6 losing this one. But I stand corrected. The knocker's coming from Nags.
Yeah, this is going to be so important if you can get the damage done. But Swinny has the digi threat, and he gets the Havoc out of the back pocket. Just needs to reload, you imagine. But this is so difficult in the smoke, and he can't get it done. 07 holding the position for the majority of the game. Get the victory. Nasky's going to be happy again. It doesn't matter if it takes 2, 3, 4 takes. He'll get it done.
Incredible in-game performance there from 07. I thought they were on the back foot. You saw that they were popping batteries as E6 made their approach. But they managed to get that first knock. And that's the thing, right? Sometimes you might get the call. It's like, oh, there's a guy weak here. Everybody sends. A little bit of crossfire comes in. And before you know it, the fight can turn on its head almost immediately. Also, that catwall. I'm not sure if it was from E6. I'm pretty sure it wasn't. It was from the 07 side. That stalled the fight just long enough and caused a little bit of visual nonsense, shall we call it, which really gave E6 the opportunity to strike there. So 07, I think I talked about them being a team who are performing as expected. That's the standards they set themselves, and it's on Storm Point down where they needed to improve.
Always nice in a final circle like that as well, when you see 3v3v3. You think one team's going to push another, they take damage, they lose the fight, they get pushed, it's a third party. But E6, they took that fight so well, the initial fight, they got pretty healthy. Yes, they were probably on the back foot initially, but because 07 also took damage, it kind of evened things out, which made for a very interesting fight. I look forward to going back and watching it from both POVs to see where really the damage was truly done. But I think you're right, the Dark Veil coming down made things very difficult. The smokes as well, I thought maybe the Digi threat would have been enough to try and help out, but you could see ammo became a problem, the reload became a problem because of the initial fight they'd had. But hats off to 07, they held the position, they held it strong, and they managed to keep themselves big, and they got the W.
Yeah, I was impressed with 07 as well. I think that kind of zone for them where they can get a quick rotate and into a building is their game all over, right? That's where they've had success on World's Edge. That's where they put the majority of their points up. And again, I talk about conversion rate, right? They're in the top 5 again. That's now, I think 4 times they've been in the top 5 and they've won 3 of the games. I mean, that is exceptional. That is, you would take, if you give that stat to any team in the world, they will go, yeah, we'll take that 100%. It's incredible execution in those final moments.
Yeah, those are the kind of stats we'll be looking at when we start to get to LAN, when we start to get to match point, right? Who are the teams who are converting successfully? Who are the teams that are converting a little bit more? And we'll have to see whether 07 can carry on this fine form.
Yeah, I think E6 as well. We said how they were a little bit of a threat from the position they had with their rotate, and they proved it in that end game. It's interesting to see Alliance, though, a tough rotate for them, we will say. A lot of the southern POIs now, we kind of talk about maybe more accessible to northern teams than they were previously on this new Storm Point, because there's a few more playable areas. But that one was particularly rough for them, having to rotate through Jurassic and fight downhill across most of the map on the open terrain. So Alliance maybe not having the best of zones for them in game number one, but it's Alliance, right? You always expect them to win every game regardless of the zone.
Yeah, I think that when all these teams are being put in this position, and there's so much kind of pressure put on the IGL as well with how they are going to be performing and how they are going to be moving into some of these late games and these final circles. And it's why I want to go back and watch as many POVs as possible with comms to see what the decision was made, who made that call, why was it made, is everyone listening, was there a player who was out of position as well. And it's why ALGS is so interesting, because there are so many minor things that can happen that can ruin a final circle for you, or in the early stages. They looked so good right at the start. I thought they had the damage. I thought they were going to win the fight. We were going to be talking about how the North pad aggression was great, and then sadly they got surprised, and it was a nice little flank that actually won the fight for Mind.
Well, we're going to take a little bit of a team comparison. Our two teams in first place and second place, respectively. Placement points, obviously going to go to 07. They'll be very happy with the win, but 12 kills down. I mean, it's superb from them, but output of damage from 07 kind of feeds into what Nasky was talking about in the interview, right? They're very wary if they get a good spot at overextending and trying not to throw games by looking for one extra kill, which is going to cost them in that end game. So I think you've just seen a really good comparison on statistically and stylistically of the two teams and what works for both.
Yeah, I think that 07 will be very happy with it, but E6, I mean, they're the ones who truly come out as the victors when it comes to points total. So that's match one done and dusted. Time to take a quick break, but when we come
Welcome back, everybody. We are back, and we are ready for game number 2, Dan Gaskin. 07, if you're just joining us, take home game number 1, but the points total certainly got stolen away by Element 6 with a huge amount of kills on their way to second place. But Stormpoint once again proving that E6 is it's like where they like to eat, Dan, because they pick up a lot of kills and they're always looking hungry.
Yes, they are very hungry indeed, and they just gobble it down, honestly.
You had no idea where to go with that.
Honestly, I was like, where's he going? But you found a way to put it in, and that's why you are good at your job. All right, match number 2. It's Stormpoint again, and we did see a few different compositions coming in. I mean, the meta was starting to kind of develop. We were seeing a lot of traditional comps coming through, a lot of Catalyst, a lot of Bangalore, a lot of Conduit, but we did see a Gibraltar. Now, we didn't get a lot of time to talk about it, but Mark, I mean, this is a big game plan from 40% worse, and in the right scenario, it could be huge for them.
I will say, I think initially it's a comfort pick coming out of Mandy. It's a legend that he's very, very comfortable on, and he knows how to navigate, but I do think there's value in it, especially if you can get towards the end game as well, and you can find yourself in a position with a lot of smokes going down, cat walls, whatever it might be. That bubble becomes invaluable, as it always has. Plus, a little bit of an SMG nerf. We know. Everybody's been talking about it. The fact that you can get a Peacekeeper or a Mastiff inside that bubble, it makes it very, very difficult to push, and you can peek and do so much damage. But enough theory crafting for now, because it's time for another contest, Dan, and we're going to have to see if Vamo Kerer can win this one this time around.
Well, I tell you what, they'll be saying Vamos if they do manage to find a victory here. You saw, though, off the drop, Postgir was unable to get a gun. Never really a fun scenario to find yourself in.
Situation.
Yeah, really, but at least he got away. I've seen so many times when you just try, you don't get a gun and then you just get pummeled to death. But now it means that Mind have the high ground. So this is a very different fight than what we saw previously. It was Vamo Kerer who had the high ground initially in match number 1, and they were able to get some damage, but then Mind on the flankaroo were able to win the fight. But again, it's a stalled, it's a delayed fight. It's not really helping either of them. But good news for both of them, the circle is coming their way.
It is, but good news and bad news, right? It's because the delay could be painful, and it looks like Vamo Kerer are deciding to leave and split the loot, and I think it's a smarter idea, especially after you lost that first contest like we mentioned. It'd be interesting to see if Mind do try and chase them down though and get a little bit of damage in and cause some problems. But speaking of the zone, Dan, you gave the information on where it's going. Let's look at the teams who have access to Ring Console to get that info themselves. You've got Alliance, they've got it. You've got Red Dragon who have got it as well, which means that they're going to be in a fantastic position to get prio to this zone. Elsewhere, just scanning around at the moment. Am I missing anything that you've picked up immediately? Can you see one sneaky around?
There was one. There was one at Northpad as well. I mean, but Vamo Kerer and Mind didn't hit it. Neither of them hit it. And this is going to be down to whether, you know, how well they know the zones. Because Kashira, we've always praised Kashira on zone pulls and, like, his knowledge. Can he call this one just from zone 1 would be my question. At the moment, they're just trying to escape. You can see it on the map. You can see the bullets are being fired. Vamo Kerer are just running away from Mind, and they're going to be running into danger just to the west of Wall here.
I will say this is probably one of the roughest zones if you're coming from the south. We did just have a south zone, so maybe it's like, hey, this is just the grand equalizer, right, for the teams who came from the north last time. But the fact that there is so little cover on this zone, this is very much if you are coming a little bit later to the party, you're playing for kills and seeing if you can pick up some placement points as well, because you're looking at playable areas. You've got a couple of buildings inside just at the northern checkpoint through the choke. You've got that little compound, of course, and then you've got the eggs or the nuts, depending on what your favorite type of food is. These are what I'm talking about right now. To play, you can stay inside of the top of the wall building as well for a little bit, but then you've got to drop out, and when you're landing, it's going to hurt, and it's a bit of a rough one, I will say. If you're not here early, you're probably not going to get in at all.
Yeah, this is so tough, because usually if you try and get into one, you're going to be griefed from the other egg or nut, depending on your favorite food, as Mark was talking about, and then you're just going to be pushing a team whilst you've taken damage. So if you haven't got there first, sometimes it's not even worth going for it when you have these 3 all pushed together. Sure, there's a third one that is available, but do you really want to go for it and just be griefed when you're arriving? It's probably not going to work out. You need to use a lot of tools just to get into that position.
Vamo Kerer have been eliminated, so big 4 games ahead for them. That's 2 games now. 1 they lost the contest, and 1 they've gone out first in the lobby. Concerning moments for Kashera and crew, but I'm sure they're going to be able to pull it back at some point. A lot more to be played, of course, but looking at the teams that are stacked up inside of the egg or nuts, depending on what your favorite food is. There's going to be Red Dragon we saw there as well. We saw Cold, who are going to be in the vicinity. Infinite are right next to them as well, and Alliance are going right out to the back at the moment. I think they just came from the other side of wall, and they're going to be out right in the water here. And I gotta say, even though they land over a lightning rod where you have an opportunity to really loot up and heavy loot, they know that getting into this zone is going to be rough if they leave it late. So they've left, and Hackers has just got white armor to play with.
So you can see one player taken down. And Cold, they're not great armor-wise, but do have some juicy weapons to use. I mean, Volt 30-30, that's pretty much the loot pool that I would always be going for. As now Graceful is going to push out to a surprise, but does get the initial damage alongside Tyler. And that's one of the benefits of being able to play Catalyst as well. Instantly reinforcing that door, giving you the extra protection, not allowing the instant pushback.
Such a risky decision, though, to step out and try and wipe this as well. That could have been like a real nightmare situation. Yes, it worked for them, and I like that they're trying to command space, but knowing that there's just multiple teams in and around, it's always a little bit of a risk to do so. But obviously, they've got to try and clear underneath the position they're holding at the moment. They don't want anyone to be ratting around there, causing problems, jumping up, griefing, whatever it might be towards that end game. Speaking of the compound we were mentioning earlier, look at 07. They've worked their way in. However, they have taken some damage, but the forceful push from them has worked. Plus, they got a knock. So Nasky's going to finish this one off, and OP, unfortunately, are going to find themselves in an even worse position now as other bullets are coming in from other teams, and Amphi's found himself a wingman. And I will say the wingman has been a complete game changer for teams now. If a call out comes and you know a team has a wingman, a lot of the time the teams are just deciding, we can't fight this, we can't afford, because one shot and your shields are gone.
Yeah, it really has been incredible, and you do have to start to prioritize the drops that come out of the sky, because a wingman can change your game. It can win you a game, and also you want to keep it out of other teams' hands. So if you do see them start to arrive from the heavens above, make sure you at least have a little look. Or if you've got a legend that can look inside from a distance, then that's going to be even better for you. But a lot don't. Pest Control find themselves in a building as well, as Zone 1 is just about closing with 30 seconds now remaining. So we've got our early movers who have found themselves within Zone 2 here. Pest Control outplayed, 07, Passion, Cold, Aftermath, all in good positions. And then we're going to get the late arrivals, 2R1C, Full English, E6, Cybercats, LVH, 40% worse. Bear in mind, we might see a fight in the southwest between LVH and 40% worse, and LVH are one of our best Storm Point teams statistically in this lobby, so I wouldn't really want to go up against them, I will say. But I do remember them having some favorable zone pools on Storm Point, but we'll have to see whether that's going to happen again. So they were taking some pop shots over towards 40% worse, and it looks like they still are.
And this fight's going on for quite some time. There's a lot of time left, of course, for them to rotate in, but Zone will start to chunk away a little bit more, as we know, as we head towards Zone 3. That's certainly the call that a lot of teams make. You can't be fighting in and around Zone when Zone 3 starts to close. But this is completely isolated, by the way. Cybercats is going to take them about... They're the closest team, and they've just left Pylon to Jurassic. So I don't think they're going to be too much of an influence on this fight, but a listening is available. Let's see how the comms go as the fight now takes place.
Cut.
Enemy close.
One spike, go in. I naded him. Might be a good nade. No.
Are you inside, Vice?
Yeah, no. Outside.
Okay.
I'm gonna drop in the back.
Window angle.
Yeah, I'm looking.
Sliding here.
One's across here.
I'm taking it back. Slow.
Crack jeep, in the left.
Drop in the window, mate.
He's on right now.
Oh, you look.
I can't see shit, bro.
Yeah, me too. There's someone in there. The Gibbies, I think there's two here.
In one.
Gibby under me now. Gibby in middle.
One, two.
He goes on our side.
Healing.
Yeah. One there.
Did he have a rise on? Almost cracked. I'm popping a bat. The mic queue up. Is that Horizon?
No Horizon.
One down. Drop.
Nice.
Yeah, I'm dropping the jet.
I'm going inside. Sliding
Yeah,
in.
they're-
I'm waiting,
yeah.
I'm waiting.
Wait for bomb,
I'm
wait for bomb, wait for-
going. 51.
Bomb,
Nice. Play slow, please. I'm playing slow.
Give me one, dead. No, chill, play cover.
I'm going.
End up.
I'm gonna go down here. I'm dead. It's on you. Nice. Good shit. Good shit. Oh god. I thought
I might
ran out of fucking ammo on my walk.
die
That's
as well
a bullet.
because yeah, I have no
LVH stand tall and they will win that fight, but it was delayed so long, Dan. I mean, LVH do win it, but at what cost? Because it's zone's closing. They should be able to get somewhere near the zone, you would imagine, but I think they're gonna be hoping there's a few medkits left on those bodies.
Yeah, they're going to need to work with medkits. Maybe they can find a crafter on their way through if they were to rotate past station. There is one available just below Cascade Falls. It's not going to be a fun journey, but we'll check in with them later to see whether they survive. For now, everyone else is starting to think about, all right, final zone. Trenches is where we reside at the moment. If you're Aftermath, I hate playing trenches. I'm going to put it out here. I think it's such a difficult spot to hold, but some teams do it well, but there's some commotion going on down here.
Yeah, we're going to see Cybercats taking on E6, and Cybercats are finding out it's E6 right now because Ranches is left on his own. It's a 1v2 for him to try and overcome, but once again, you're seeing E6 prioritizing that Havoc. I think there is a game plan when it comes to the Havoc. Find it, use it, and pick up kills alongside it. Finishes should come in as well. You saw the last player did manage to escape momentarily, but now there's a third party who's starting to appear down, and this might be a little bit more ugly as 2R1C try and say hello.
You can see the game plan from E6. I mean, just look at their composition. Horizon, Bang, and Bloodhound. They are looking to be aggressive. They are looking to pick up kills. And they might be able to just about survive. Oh, no, he's going to be taken out of the sky. But Slab, as he lands here, if he gets chased, might be able to take the fight.
Yeah, interesting. I'll talk a little bit more about Bloodhound and maybe some of the reasons teams are running it, as well as the obvious ones of countering the bang smoke a little bit later. But August and Hungry, it's mentioned the trenches. Sometimes you got to fight in the trenches. It's all about being in the trenches, and they're making it work for them at the moment. Picking up a couple of kills along their way on AM. 17 squads now remain, as we do have, I will say, quite a surprising amount of teams still alive, but not a huge amount of teams in zone, because quite simply, there's nowhere to go. Like we mentioned previously, a lot of teams on the southern side of this zone trying to fight their way towards those chokes.
Yeah, it's a lot of teams alive right now. Also, checking in on LVH. They are still alive, and they've just got in the circle. But as round 3 starts to close, I think the lobby is going to almost be cut in half here, because we've got half the lobby still outside of the zone, and they're all going to have to fight in. Checkpoint is a horrible place to be at the moment, because 2 chokes you're going to have to try and get through to try and get into this zone. And even if you arrive, you're then in a lot of open space, and you're going to be griefed and seen by those who have already found themselves in zone. As for August and Hungry, just holding the northwest here, they're okay at the moment, but Alliance are holding one of the best spots, as 2R1C seem to have found a rat of their own, and Cybercats get eliminated.
I was about to say, that's not a rat, that's a Cybercat, Dan. Come on, very easy to distinguish.
Sorry.
Maybe it wasn't close enough for you to. There's some telltale
What is a solo Cybercat, though?
It's a Cybercat.
Oh, okay, all right, yeah. And then multiple, you just add the S. Got it.
You're overthinking it.
Got
anyway,
it.
2R1C, they're in the Spider Cave at the moment. They were the team who were kind of cleaning up a lot of the damage. Element 6 did manage to survive as a 2, and they're going to be fighting full English. You can see on the right-hand side of your screen right now, which will be a 2v3. However, it could change very quickly. They do actually get back to a full 3, so full English is going to find out very quickly that you've got to finish off these players and not let them get back in the game, because E6, if they're back up to a 3, it's a problem, and Noises just found that out for himself.
You gotta finish off your plate every single beam as the beam now comes through. Can they get the finish? No. Well, and again, E6 not going to finish off the full English either, but I think someone else might do the job for them, as 2R1C again find another rat, and it is going to be full English now eliminated. Don't ask me what a solo full English player is left. Maybe some mushrooms. Oh, no, you never leave a sausage to last.
You're right. Yeah, sorry, my mistake, everybody. 2R1C, though. Interesting composition coming in from them, though. You got the Crypto, you got the Bangalore, and of course, you've got the Catalyst as well. But the Crypto is going to be pretty useful in this situation, just to scout a fight that's going down that they might be able to third party or grief or whatever it might be. And I think 07 are about to have a little bit of a surprise themselves, because Case Winnie crew, Element 6, number 1 and number 2 from the previous games, they are rubbing shoulders right now, Dan.
Yeah, I mean, if you go off comfort playing the Crypto and having the ability to play it across both maps, because we're going to see more Watson when we get to World's Edge, and that's when Crypto will really come into effect. But Bloodhound is going to set the beast of the hunt, and E6 is going to start to push in and press in. And it's going to be Bloodhound versus Crypto, which is going to be two of our beacon characters, but E6 just need to be careful here. You can see they want to press, but there's so much stalling ahead of them right now.
Yeah, as you're seeing a lot of ults go down, and there is the benefit of the Horizon, right? You can go over all the carnage, but there is the grief coming in from the EMP, and it is going to cause huge damage to 07. They will be eliminated, but also damage to Element 6 as well. Case when he's having to take the time to put a bat into his body to make sure those shields come back. He manages to do so, but Cracked has gone down as well. CJ falls, and now Element 6 are fighting for their life, but Slab will find one.
This Havoc is by name and by nature at the moment, just tearing through any enemy that gets in the crosshairs. But E6, as a 2, still surviving, still doing pressure, smoking everything they can. Digis are massive at them for them right now. And somehow, some way, they're still alive. And they might even be back as a full 3. I don't know how E6 are doing it, but they've been phenomenal so far at the start of this match week.
Well, E6 still alive, but did have to expend pretty much all of their utility in that fight. We'll have to keep moving as well. They need to get healthy. Ultimate Accelerates will be a premium pickup if they can find them, because we did see Beast of the Hunt was picked up. We saw the Bangalore Ultimate was used as well. The Rolling Thunder, Bloodhound, everything was used to try and force their way into zone. And in the top 12 now, they're going to have to plan what they do next. We have an opportunity to jump into a listening. Let's see what the plan is ourselves.
Anywhere.
Yeah, no, I'm gonna die. Play on the ping, 100%.
Yeah.
Play on the ping, we're still on the fucking corner.
Get in there.
Come in, fight.
I'm with you.
With you. I'm batting him. I'm dead. You guys come in.
Yeah. I'm above them.
Nice. One shot, blood.
Bang is one on me.
Hold you. I give you my knock. On you right.
Behind you, inside. First that guy.
No. Try. It's fine.
9 kills.
No HP, bro. 9 kills.
E6 in a horrible position, trying to make it work, Dan, but this is the problem. There's nowhere to play as E6, Red Dragon, and LVH all eliminated. We're down to 6.
The comms quite rightly so intense, because the whole lobby at the moment is trying to find somewhere to play, and everyone is struggling to do so. Alliance, one of the only teams who is really away from all of the action at the moment and are surviving well. You can see Cold and Infinite going at it. A Dark Veil goes down to allow Cold to cross to try and finish off Infinite here. Aimbot, though, he gets the bat off, but look at all the grief that's happening from the northern side. Alliance just being a nuisance right now.
Wall goes down as well. They've had to give up their height. Aimbot needs to get this battery popped because he has a wingman. He can turn a fight. And look at this. Cold, who tried to extend to take down the final 2 players of Infinite, took so much damage in the back from the likes of Alliance, from the likes of Passion, that now they are in a problem themselves. Infinite Aimbot manages to get one. But can he survive? This has been survivability at its best coming in from these 2 players.
Yeah, really impressed with how they've been able to hold off all of these teams, and the wingman has played a big part in that, but they're unlikely to win the game from this position. Now it's just about damage control. Get as much KP, get as far as you can into placements as another team arrives, but another team is held off. Mind eliminated, Infinite still going, and it's gonna be more shreds coming through, but I don't think they're gonna be able to survive for much longer. Passion go down, and they're into the top 3.
They're into the top 3, and he's still got the wingman. He's still got an opportunity to get another. Aimbot takes another down. Infinite finally fall, but it's August and Hungry versus Alliance to see who is going to be champion in our game number 2. Alliance up on the high ground. August and Hungry, they had to stick a res themselves. Damage comes in from effect, and now you're going to see Hackett's trying to move in with a shield swap, trying to swing with his Digi on the R9.
And maybe it can be another victory for Yuki to put under his belt before he leaves the squad, because they've got the damage, and this should just be clean up now. Easy as that. 1, 2, 3. Alliance take match number 2.
Homer Simpson meme in mind. Do it for Yuki, Alliance, and that's exactly what they do in game number 2. Just remember, they were in a position where they had some pretty rough armors at the start of that game, decided to commit to an early northern rotate. They held down that spot for the entirety of their game and then execute in those final moments. Alliance, like I mentioned, they're doing it for Yuki today. They want to send him off in the best way possible, and I tell you what, winning game number 2 is a pretty good start.
Honestly, like the wall behind me, you see the pictures of like Horizon. This Horizon? That's not Horizon. What am I even on about? Mirage. You could just have like little Yuki pictures there, and we'll make sure that we do it for Yuki, because I mean, it is a sad day for Yuki to be leaving the squad, and I think if he can go out with a bang here, it would just show what an incredible player he is and how important he has been to Alliance. But then there's the after effect of, right, what happens afterwards. Is it going to be a downward spiral or an upward trend for Alliance? But right now, all they can do is get points whilst they have him. And as you say, it was an impressive game where they held the Northern Zone. And similarly to match 1, when I was speaking about how good Alliance are at making themselves big, pressuring teams, not allowing teams to push them too easily, that was a perfect example through that entire game. They kept everyone at bay, kept everyone at arm's length. No one got close enough to them, and then it was just about finishing off the pieces at the end.
Well, I'm going to let you take 2 minutes just to catch your breath, because you've just been giving it the beans and you need to just rest those vocal cords for a few seconds down. I'm going to bring Stella back in here to discuss what we just saw in game number 2. Stella, are you there? Are you here? Are you ready to have a little chat?
Here. I was gonna say you were way too nice. First of all, I thought we were kicking him because he mistook Mirage for Horizon. But anyways, so not lingering on that. That last match was incredible. I mean, Alliance was able to get early rotations and they were able to have supreme positioning in the end. It was really sad to see E6 just come back and then finally get taken out kind of early. But it's really funny to see how teams always end up clashing super hard at around round 5. So it's been really interesting to see everyone survive really well, avoid fights where they can. But then, of course, there's an all-out battle royale at the very end.
I think one team to actually, it's very interesting, that zone, to highlight the difference between where a zone is ending, having prio to that zone and having to rotate from the complete other side of the map. And we saw that from Alliance and E6, right? E6 had to come right from the southern side of the zone. They did a great job. They fought their way in. I think you do not expect to win that game. And you heard it in the comms, right? They hit the evac tower, they landed, they died, but Swinny wasn't angry, he wasn't mad about it. He was like, that is what it is. We got good KP, we got some placement points. And after our monster game 1, we're pretty happy with that. Whereas Alliance, they had really good prio. They had ring console, they knew where their second zone was going. They had a little bit more information than the teams around them, which allows them to hit an early rotate and get into a position to hold down for the long game. But also want to give a shout out to Aimbot, by the way, with that wingman. He was a one-man army in the center of the smoke and the carnage and the cat queues and all of that. He wasn't bothered about that. He was bothered about headshots, and he was hitting a few of them.
Yeah, I'm so glad you brought up the point about the comms and how the team leader was like, no, it's okay. Obviously he wasn't going to win a 1v2 when everyone else was fully armored. So I love that there was that positivity. It's okay. Game 2. Go again, and that mindset is so important. And also, I want to point out how Alliance used their Cat, Horizon, and Bangalore perfectly in the last fight. I mean, Alliance's effect, he's so good at repositioning with Horizon, especially over the cat walls. It is a perfect combination. But I know that we kind of have
Again, forcing your way into a zone that's rough for you, that there's nowhere to play, and coming out of it with 9 kills and 11 points. You offer them that from that zone, I think they take it every single day. So great performance from E6 once more.
Yeah, even though they were in 9th, they did have 9 kills, which is incredible. And we do see here a lot of the teams that we saw playing a little bit better. ANCL played is actually in 15th now, and with full English, we did see them kind of struggling to get into circle, which is why when you bring up the importance of having ring console access, it's so important. So yeah, hopefully these teams are able to get it back together for game number 3, the last game on Stormpoint. And do you remember the stats that we brought up with the teams that were more consistently successful on Stormpoint?
LVH was certainly one of them, and LVH have been a little bit quieter today on Stormpoint. They did have that elongated fight with 40% worse earlier on today, but look at the stats from Alliance in that last game. I mean, Effect, Dan Gaskin modeling his hair on, of course, Effect's haircut, as he will deny it, but he's told me in private, and I'm exposing to the world that that's what he's trying to do. He wants to be the guy to replace Yuki, and he thinks that's the best way, to pretend he's Effect.
Oh, I see. Okay, yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Yeah, no, with Effect being able to rotate...
Whoa.
Yeah.
Sorry to cut you off, Star. I just noticed that he dropped 2k damage in that game, Effect.
Yeah.
We need to highlight that. That's ridiculous.
I was going to bring up the fact that he uses Horizon to get a better angle to help his teammates. He does a lot of the damage. Of course, he got a lot of the kills, but it's because he's able to help his team with Crossfire, and it's incredible. So we are looking at the results so far, and Element 6 is on top with 21 total kills, which I mean, above second place from Alliance, 14. That's a pretty big jump in points.
Yeah, I mean, those two are pulling away a little bit at the moment. August and Hungry tied in third and fourth. You can see just the kills, maybe the difference between, the placement points, the difference between the two, but points pretty much tied up. Down at the other end, though, Full English, who had a pretty good previous game day, they did struggle when these two groups went up against each other the first time, and it seems to be the case once again. But Vamokere, their move from the wall towards North Pad is not working for them. I mean, it's tough to see. There's only one more game left on Storm Point, so you might as well try it once more before going back to the drawing board. But something needs to change for them, and it needs to change now.
Yeah, listen, for the next match, I want E6 to win because they were robbed in the first game. But also, I mean, this would be a great way for Alliance to round out their Storm Point games. And also, it is the 5th anniversary of Apex Legends. So what a great way to go out, right? 2 wins on Storm Point? I'm just saying. Anyways, we're going to take a quick break before we get into the last game on Storm Point.
No time to really get too much of a rest because the games are coming thick and fast today, everybody. Game 3 is just around the corner. Danny Gaskin, that shirt is magnificent, by the way. I will ask you after the show where you got that one from because I might get one in a different color.
This
kind of
might be
thinner corduroy, this one, than yours.
Honestly, I think it might fit you. It's like one of those oversized ones. So it will probably look really tight on you, but it might be one of the few bits of clothing we could actually share.
Ways to say, I've put on a bit of mass. I've been working.
No, I
might fit you.
I'm saying you're big. No, I'm saying I'm small. It's oversized for me, but it'd be good for you. That's what I'm saying.
Fair enough. Well, there's two teams who seem to be separating themselves a little bit in these first 2 games, and it's going to be the 2 teams who, of course, at the top of the leaderboards. Alliance, though, a return to form and a welcome one. I think, Dan, very important for them just to maybe play with a little bit of a carefree attitude, a little bit more comfort, I would say. And speaking of comfort, I've got to say, Effect back on Horizon. I've been waiting for this for a little bit of time as well because he looks like he's just so much more comfortable playing Horizon than any other legend that he's been playing in the last few weeks.
Yeah, I'm surprised we're not seeing more Horizons as well on Storm Point, considering how important she can be and the differences that she can make for those kind of mitigating those height differences that are sometimes available to you. But not just that, you can see in those fights and the way that Effect uses them, you can get out of a fight quickly, you quickly use a shield battery, you can get back into the fight, the movement that you're available to have as well. I think having the right player on Horizon can be the difference maker in a lot of 3v3s, not to mention we're not even talking about her kit and the black hole and the differences that that can make as well in any sort of engagement. So I think it's great to see Effect playing it. Seems to be very comfortable with 2k damage. I mean, you know he's comfortable, right? Like, that's just ridiculous, that amount of damage. And the fact that he went down. Remember, he got picked back up at one point. Like, it's crazy, like, that we see that these teams are being able to find new ways to put people back on their comfort picks so that they can output damage like that.
Yeah, I think one thing that's always overlooked a little bit in Horizon as well is how it counters a lot of the abilities of other characters as well. You know, you see the Rolling Thunder coming from Bangalore, Q over the top of it. Dark Veils, Q over the top of it if you time it well and you get a little bit of damage yourself. So Horizon certainly, in my personal opinion, I think is a must pick at the moment for a lot of teams. And even though there's been some experimentation away, it's always going to have that value with the grav lift. So Horizon effects, I think it's a match made in heaven, and he seems to be putting in some pretty good performances so far. And we're also seeing a little bit more Bloodhound start to come back into things. And I've got a little bit of theory crafting on this, been thinking about things, because I like to have fun, right? I think Apex, one of the great things about Apex is you can always think forward on why and perhaps this might work in this meta and all that kind of stuff. And we have seen a little bit of a drop in ring console spawn rates across a lot of POIs, which we saw has affected a few of the games in previous game weeks where teams have maybe made a bad read on zone and everyone else follows the traffic, and then we have like one team is sitting there going, hey, cool, we got zone, like wonderful. And I think the ability to hit survey beacons as well on your way to zone is going to give you a lot of information on where you can plan your rotate and take a more of an isolated fight, right, instead of just relying on a ring console. And then you add in the fact that Bloodhound's one of the best fighting characters in the game. You can hit the scans, you can hit the ultimate, and you're going to be extremely effective in those engagements. I think it's something that people are starting to think a little bit more on, and how to counteract maybe ring console spawns dropping off a little bit and thinking, hey, what else is available can we use to give ourselves access to some of these zones?
Yeah, I think that Bloodhound and Crypto, the only two meta characters that we have right now that can hit the survey beacons, so that's why they're the two that people are kind of dipping into. More so Bloodhound, because I feel like it is going to help those teams who are playing in that way, because it is slightly more of an aggressive manner, because you aren't going to be able to play zone straight away. You are going to be playing through certain POIs, and Crypto maybe not going to help out as much in that situation. You have to play a very different style, so I think it's great. And especially for a team like E6, for example, who have been phenomenal at fighting, adding that Bloodhound, giving them the ability to get those scans, get that extra information, but then also being able to get the survey beacons on their way, means they're going to be in a position where they know where everyone else is. And if they feel like space is not available in the zone and they want to just go for kills, they also get that information. They also find out where those teams are and they can start hunting them down. And I think that, you know, Bloodhound, even though fell out of the meta a little bit, is starting to work the way back in. And I'm very excited to see more of it.
Yeah, certainly looking forward to seeing how Bloodhound is utilized a little bit. We know the Dark Zero have been tinkering with that in the previous weeks as well. So I love the fact that there's just constantly evolving gameplay, right? And then right around the corner, we've got a new season. So who knows what that's going to hold as well. Certainly going to be an exciting few weeks. The match has just started up, by the way. I've got my... Watch this. I'm just looking. There it is. It's just started up. So we'll be getting into it in just a few moments' time. Dan's been holding off because, as we all know, everybody, casters start the game in esports, and Dan's been holding off on it. Why would you do that to us?
Hold on. I'll press the button, and we'll go. All right, everyone's in the lobby. They're starting to pick their compositions, and we'll have to see whether we start to see more Horizons as we go in, because I think that NA have definitely adapted to that quicker than EMEA. For some reason, EMEA like to stick to their truths a little bit with some of their composition choices. NA, it seems to be at least 50% plus on Horizon, whereas a lot less here in EMEA. And that's one of the things that I've always found interesting. Not just EMEA, not just NA, APAC as well. We start to see such different kind of approaches to the game, and then you get to LAN, where all those different approaches start to be just fudged together, and suddenly some work, some don't, some that didn't work now work, and it's why all these different regions coming together makes LAN so exciting for me.
It certainly is what everyone's playing for, right? And like I mentioned at the start of the show, at the top of the show, we are over a third of the way through now with 2 games under our belt. And the third game is just around the corner. You can see, speaking of compositions, where everyone is going to be picking. And I got to say, Bloodhound Element 6 seems like a match made in heaven for me. And that's exactly what they are going to be running once again hit. Excuse me as I catch my breath, but Cold I want to talk about as well, because I've been in some pretty good positions so far in these first 2 games, Dan, but just not being able to execute on those really important kind of top 8, top 7 positions where you can turn that into a win.
Yeah, and Cold at the moment, they come into this match week on 18 points in 17th position. So they're one of these teams that are on the bubble, right? One of these teams that are kind of okay and they can perform like averagely and consistent across the board. They don't need anything too big, too dramatic, but you do still have to stay ahead of the race. Speaking of staying ahead of the race, it's another race to North Pad, and we get our contest yet again. Remember, Vamo Korea are 2-0 down here. They have not been able to win this contest. Last time, they just ran away, but they still got pummeled down. So, in my eyes, I still take that as a loss, but I guess some would see it as just a 1-0 at the moment.
Yeah, it was an opportunity, really. I think that the zone made it maybe a little bit easier for them to leave because they were like, hey, we might be able to get a prior position here, and we might just have got enough weapons to do a little bit of poke damage and last the end game, but it just wasn't to be for them. And Vamo Korea, don't know if they're going to run this time and they're just going to steal the loot like they did previously, but mind, they don't look like they're too worried about fighting it, or maybe the threat of a fight. They do have that player up on the extreme height on the kind of crane arm, the bridge here, where you can kind of give the information of what's about to happen, and from that, it looks like it's going to be a little bit more quiet. A few shots going to go down, a little bit of damage is going to be exchanged, but nothing too worrying as we're going to a Stormcatcher zone, everybody. It's looking like we might be pointing either Stormcatcher or down towards the cannon just below.
I'm still surprised by this move from Vamo Korea because, I mean, Mind are technically performing better than Red Dragon at the moment. They've got more points. They have been a lot more successful. They're all around the same kind of area. They've all been struggling a little bit. They're around 20th position in the overalls, but clearly VQ saw something and felt like Northpad was going to be a better position for them to try and take off of Mind rather than continuing the fight against Red Dragon. But I guess it comes down to what we were talking about at the top of the show, right? If it's not working, go somewhere else. So that's what VQ are trying here, and sadly it hasn't really worked out so far at Northpad either. But remember, VQ have been through so many team changes now, right? What Kashira was trying to do with the Brazilian players, with the South American players, bringing them over, starting this new team, has come to an end. So now they're going back to post-kill, and this is a new start, a new beginning, so there's going to be a lot of learning curve coming through.
We've got a revved up Rampage, and I'll tell you what, this triple swing, it can do so much damage! Ow! Oh, I felt that one in my bones. I don't know about you. There's even more damage coming in as well, and Vamo Korea, unfortunately, it is going to be good night and sweet dreams once again by the looks of things. One does go down for Mind, but that is going to be them being tucked in and kissed on the forehead as they're sent to bed, Dan. That is 3 games now. No real points to talk about. 2 contests lost. Vamo Korea, a rough start for them.
Well, we can start to look at the zone. We're going east over towards Stormcatcher. Infinite have already made their way there. Passion, Full English are already moving. Alliance did have Ring Console, as did Full English up towards Zeus. So the far northeastern teams are going to be moving pretty fast, although I say that Alliance actually are going to be staying at Lightning. They're more than happy at just holding this northern choke, it would seem. And then all the southern teams are going to be starting to move their way as well. At Coastal Camp, there was a Ring Console for 40% worse, but they have to go through Pylon, which isn't going to be fun because 2R1C are going to be waiting for them.
Yeah, 2R1C sat on height with a crypto as well, so they're going to have the cameras in the sky droning around and letting them know exactly where 40% worse are. However, they can be forced off height, of course, by the Gibby ult, so we'll have to see if Mandy can have a little bit of an effect on that one. But looking elsewhere as we swing our way around the map to a little bit more southern from the northern side of things where we started looking today, we're going to go back to 40% worse in and around Pylon and see if they can win this fight. Shiv, luckily for him, has a little armor swap poking about. And he has a Sentinel. And I tell you what, one shot with this and a headshot, this man can do damage.
Speaking of 40%, it's a 40% pick rate for Horizon in this match. So it has gone up a little bit, and we are trending towards that 50% plus mark that I was talking about in North America. But here in EMEA, just slightly under, but still people starting to see the value of a Horizon on Stormpoint and what she can add to a team. Now, 07 fighting through smokes and anything that also might prevent them, but it's a Watson team they're going up against. Only 3 Watsons in the lobby right now.
Yeah, Watson again, I think is one of those legends we're going to see picked up a little bit now that it doesn't be healing enemies through walls. It gives you a little bit more consistency on areas that you can hold and how you can play around that pylon, but they are going to be able to pick up some pretty easy kills, and holding down this staircase for the end game is going to be a very, very good place to be. Look what's happening above them, though, in the rope shaft, shall we call it? A little bit of a questionable call out, but, you know, it is what it is. You know where I'm talking about. I'm looking at Yikoi here.
I mean, if you said it, I would know where you were talking about. So I think it's a call out that definitely works, as Stay Healthy are staying healthy at the moment. And they're just pressing themselves against anyone that is starting to arrive. And I think this is good. I think when you have a position that you can work with and you feel like it's going to be a comfortable spot, you need to start pushing people back. You need to make and take as much space as possible. And Yes, you can do that with certain legends, like a Watson, for example. You can fence areas off, but when you have a composition that doesn't allow that, then you need to be using your guns to do the same thing.
07 feeling a little bit fruity, and it's because they've got a wingman. Damage comes in, but not good enough. This is a very aggressive push, and it works out for them. So 07 decide to give up the staircase. They win the fight, but they do have one player finished. So Amphi is going to be down. Now, can they get him back in? As again, looking for the third party, but not willing to overextend, is going to be Full English. And they're in a good spot for the end game here. But Full English, we've seen in good spots for end games down. They do have the Watson and are one of those teams with a composition with Watson in to maybe help them hold this push. But there's been a few fights where they just seem to be rolled a little bit. And unfortunately, Triple M and K can cause that.
Yeah, and 30th position at the moment for Full English, so they're in a pretty good spot. They had a rough week one, but started to pick things up in their second match day, and they're looking to try and continue with that consistency to stay in the top 20. We're seeing a lot of Havocs. I mean, probably the main reason for that turbocharger is in the crafter, so not only is it fantastic when you have the turbocharger, but if you can guarantee a turbocharger every game, why wouldn't you pick up that Havoc? As for getting teammates back in, we don't have the respawn beacon available. The mobile resi is not going to be in the crafter, so it is about finding one on the floor. Case when he has one, by the way, as E6 start to press their advantage here.
And here is the Bloodhound again, trying to force the fight, right? The smokes not going to be half as effective as they previously were. E6 is going to take this space pretty comfortably, to be honest, and I think just popping that Bloodhound ultimate just allows them to do so. It forces that team back, so I think they're going to be pretty comfortable here. They're not going to have to do too much. Now they just control this space, and I've always liked this side of the map, Dan. This side of the zone, you can look down on teams who are rotating up. You have a lot of cover and rocks to play off of, and you can kind of third party a lot of the teams that have to leave those staircases late in the game. So E6, it's a different type of game for them this time. They are in a good position for endgame. As I say that, that is a zone pull we haven't seen for quite some time.
Yeah, it looks like it's going to start pulling even further north, and that's going to be great news for Passion and Outplayed. But for teams like E6, like Stay Healthy, who are on that southern side, they're going to have to then take high ground off of those other teams, and they're not going to have that information yet. That's the scary thing, right? They're going to have to wait for this zone pull to come through before they get that information, and then they're going to have to play around it. And by that time, teams might have already taken the spots off of you. So we'll have to see how that one plays out as we get further into round 3. But for now, still, zone 2 is 40% worse, still going through Pylon here, and this is what we were concerned about, right? They are just being held out, they're being gate kept.
40% worse, almost in their own mini game at the moment. Just a straight TDM on the edge of where the zone is going to be going. And 2R1C, understandably, are just thinking, hey, this might be free KP for us, but they're going to have to rotate away at some point as well. And this can be a frustration sometimes, like 40% worse, thinking, why don't you just rotate? Like, why are you holding this for so long? Why don't you try and progress towards where the zone is going so that you don't have to run into 7 teams a little bit later on? But your 2R1C, you're thinking, hey, we have the ultimate high ground here. This should be easy KP for us, and when we get it, then we can move with even more loot.
But I spoke about 2R1C's consistency throughout the match week so far, and they are a team who like to take fights, like to get KP, and even though they haven't had much winning success, they haven't had a win yet, I don't think, they are a team who just is able to pick fights, win fights, and then move and progress. And I tell you what, if you're finding consistent points by doing that, then by all means, go for it. Oh, look, that's a big counter.
That is the counter of all counters, and now the cannon is going to send Mandy and the Gibby in the skies, but unfortunately he's going to be taking a little nap. But when he lands, hopefully there might be some smelling salts for them to pick him back up. But look at this! Is it a bird? Is it a plane? No, it's 2 rats and 1 controller who are looking to land and looking to cause problems.
Should be an easy, comfortable finish on the first, but good responsive damage coming out here. And actually, this isn't as easy as maybe they thought it was going to be. Are they going to be able to clean it up? Just about. 40% worse certainly made it difficult, but 2R1C will be able to survive. And these are the kills I was talking about. They pick up some KP, and actually, with the way that this zone's playing out, they should have a relatively comfortable rotation, at least into zone 2, so they won't have to worry just too much.
Well, LVH are in command center at the moment. They're trying to force their way towards zone. There is a ring console in front of them, but I don't think they're going to have the time to hit that because they're trying to force their way with only a few moments left on this zone, 45 seconds to even be safe. So LVH trying to move up for now. J-Hanzo going to take a little bit of damage, but the Q comes in from Vice to get those shields back so he can re-engage in the fight, or certainly not be taken down as quickly. But I wouldn't just As we're seeing this fight down, the zone pool, it's something we've seen a few times, right, this season. The zone pool's a little bit unpredictable. Those shots aren't though. Life in showing why he's up in the leaderboards right at the top. The amount of kills he picked up.
It's an unpredictable zone pool, but it could be very beneficial for these teams who are scrapping out in command center. The winner of all these squads up on the northern side will hold one of the better positions for where this zone is going. But there are 3 teams here, if not 4. There are 4 teams here, so it is not going to be easy to come out as a full 3.
Yes, 2 teams up on the height, I think, and 1 team outside, which is going to be ANC outplayed, who are just waiting for any damage to be done. This is the ultimate third-party opportunity for them. They also have a Digi on the wingman, which we've already said, wingman equals problem. But LVH trying to stall this, trying to fight their way out. They will be safe in this little corner. They just got to hope there's no nades coming their way. But swinging through now onto this door might be their exit, but there's Watson fences there, and it's going to slow them down even more.
It's one of those things, isn't it? You're like, we've run into one of the 3 Watson teams in the lobby. Of course we have, and you start to think, all right, how do we get out of this? You look at your utility. What have you got available? Do you have grenades? Are you going to be able to burst out together? Do you have to use just pure raw damage? These are the considerations that will be made and will be spoke about, and it has to be made relatively soon. I guess there's not an immediate rush. You can wait for other teams to potentially turn up and help you, which might just be happening here.
Also, just got to wait and maybe see if you can get a few abilities back to help you on this rotate, right? I think the catwall's at 50%, if I wasn't mistaken there, but 50 seconds left on zone. Are they going to be able to get that back in time? Do they have an ult XL in the backpack just to speed that process up? Well, mind, they've lost one. Like you mentioned, they've lost 2, and now this is the opportunity. If they can seize it here, LVH, and get out of this door, they have a chance to move and take this space.
Patience is a virtue. Sometimes it really does pay off in Apex Legends. Just to wait that extra 10 seconds to see what happens. Don't rush a decision. The zone isn't going to be too much of a problem right now for them either, because it has pulled north, as we saw, and they will be able to survive here for just that little while longer. And LVH can see that. They are fine and dandy, and they can reside here for quite some time.
LVH finally leave, and they will be safe. They now have this space to play as well. Some nice head glitches, and all the other teams. Let's keep in mind, by the way, LVH, who have put themselves into a position that you quite rightly said is a great one if you can leave as one of the last teams from Command Center. Everybody else who had bet on Stormcatcher, maybe that cannon, they've got to move. They're going to have to shift towards where Passion are, right in the center of zone. So if they could just live here, LVH, they could survive. They will be in a great spot for end zone.
Yeah, if we can take a look at the map, when the action subsides, Passion are in dead center zone in the one building that is going to be in the circle as well. And that's where everyone is going to start to naturally progress towards. So even though Passion hold this spot, they will have to hold it very tightly. Now, at the moment, LVH, they're on the hunt. They smell a couple of players, and it is going to be the remainder of Mind. And it looks like it's going to be the end of their day.
That will be them falling. 12 squads now remain as LVH, having stalled out their exit from command, now find themselves in a commanding position themselves. They have complete control over the northern side of this zone. ANC outplayed are going to have to rotate into them from the end of the zipline building themselves, but now you're seeing 07 make their play, trying to approach where this endgame is going to be. It's Passion inside of the building, but 07, having moved early, having moved quickly, now have this wall to play.
Yeah, they've got the wall to play, but you're very vulnerable from both west and east here. Smokes are going to be really important, but here comes E6 flying on top of the building. E6 just being the same aggressive squad that we're used to be seeing, and actually, they can hold the high ground here. Now, okay, they don't have the defensive legends to be able to necessarily hold a position, but they do have the guns. They do have the ability to pressure teams, but are they going to be pushed by 07?
One thing they do have is the smokes of Bangalore to deny LOSs. You mentioned how they're kind of safe up here because of the height. Well, the only place that could shoot them for now is the top of Stormcatcher, but they have that little nook to play. They have the smokes to block that line of sight, which allows them to play this, and as everyone else has to leave Stormcatcher, they will be safe up on that ultimate high ground. The difficulty is, can you hold it? Because other teams are going to challenge that and try and take that height off of you.
And look at the amount of open space. I mean, 40% of the circle is taken up by the mountain, and then 50% of it is just open area. There's a few rocks, there's a few ridges you can play around, but this building is the end game. This is where everyone wants to be able to get, and that's why we saw these few teams make their way as quick as possible once they had that information. And that information could have come from a survey beacon as well for E6, and perhaps that's how they were able to just see where they needed to go, as now other teams starting to make their move as well.
12 teams still remaining. The 3 teams who have been involved in our end games 1, 2, and 3. In the standings, Alliance, 07 and E6, all of them still alive in this lobby as well. Cybercats trying to make their move. This looks like a play for kills for them at the moment. Have to back up for a few seconds. As you can see in the kill feed, the Slabber's taken down Hackis as well. Hackis is on his back, but might be in a position to be rezzed. So that height, this is where everyone has to leave. This is what we were teeing up. Stormcatcher, a great place to be maybe a few moments ago, but now you have to get out of here. Cybercats cannot do that, as it will be Alliance who pick up some kills on their way forward.
Oh, just so much commotion happening in the moment outside of Stormcatcher as E6 from this position can also pick up damage, can also potentially pick up KP. They did so well to get into this spot, and now they can reap the rewards of doing so as the full English just about survived. But now the Southern teams are starting to join this as Alliance still have one. And Effect, he's a one-man army at times, but can he do anything here with the Havoc?
I was about to say, Alliance have 1.5. Unfortunately, they don't have him anymore. He will take it down. Alliance full as we enter towards the final circles or so here. E6, this high ground though for them is everything, but look at Passion. They're trying to put a little bit of pressure on Red Dragon now moving up as well. E6 are going to have to keep themselves in a position where they cannot let someone queue up on them. They have to be careful of any defensive bombardments coming down, any rolling thunders coming down as well that can really cause damage that people can play off and try and take that high ground. But for now, a phenomenal job from E6 just to hold.
They're just fighting so well together at the moment, E6, prioritizing the right targets and certainly firing at the same things, and it's going to be raining hell from above at the moment. But they do, this is perfect. It's baiting and switching, but it's also making sure they stay healthy enough where they can't be jumped on, right? They're making sure they've at least got 2 to 3 bars of shields to work with here, as now other teams starting to arrive. Outplayed, LVH are taking a scrap.
LVH, we mentioned this is going to be the team that's going to be closest to them that can cause them a problem. If they can clean this up, they might have a little bit of a walk in themselves. 07, of course, are having a little bit of a look. Red Dragon eliminated in the meantime, the final remaining players from that squad. But 44 seconds left. The Digi threat again is the difference inside of this smoke. Good damage coming in from Life, and now he's going to swing out and finish his own kill. But can they finish off this fight?
It doesn't look like it. Honestly, Outplayed seem to have done enough damage where now Hanzo's going to fall. LVH go down. 6 squads remain, but Outplayed could potentially also be eliminated here because they're being griefed from all the other teams. And E6 still kings of the castle at the moment on top of this building, just making sure they do as much damage as possible. Full English go down. So do Outplayed. It's 4 squads left.
4 squads left. Cold healthy. Now, this is an opportunity for Cold to answer the question that we posed in that previous game. They get into these positions, into the top 5s, into the top 6s, but it's very rare we see them with a championship banner in front of them, having been able to close out the game. The wall is going to go down as well. They had to use that to get into this position, so now they have to wait and see if they can get damage onto E6, maybe wait for abilities to come back. A lot of loot boxes down there for them to maybe find some multi-cells, but it's looking like a rough rotate.
So the circle is going to end just south of this building at the moment. So Cold are okay right now, but my worry for them is they're very visible to the 3 teams that are in the side of the building. Cold, what they need is the teams in the buildings to fight each other, and then they slowly make their way up and find a position to kind of work with. And this is winnable from Cold's position. I think this is winnable from both Cold's position and East. Actually, I'd say every team, bar maybe Passion, has a really good spot of winning, a really good chance of winning. Passion I'm worried for because they're kind of stuck in this building, and usually if you're the team within the building, you get focused quite a lot. So Passion will have to do something special.
Well, E6, the only thing that might stop them is maybe meds, maybe ammo, because they did move to this point, this spot, excuse me, a little bit earlier than everyone else, but they are going to have fantastic information. Scan comes in, they know they're going to be moved up on, but they get smoked off themselves. 07 looking to have a little bit of a push as well, but look at this from Slap, by the way. He is a turret right now. He is looking all directions, dealing damage to everyone, which slows those rotates for just a few seconds.
And this is such a good call from Cold, though. Cold are slowly walking up and finding playable space here, just behind this truck, just behind this little trench that they can work with. All they're doing is staying out of enemy sight lines. They have that wall now to work with, and the zone is going to force these teams off the building. So Cold, they just need to stay healthy. If they can stay as a 4-3, this could be winnable, but they just have to be careful that they don't get jumped on here.
Respawn Beacon just called in to give a little bit more cover here from 07, but the wingman, Dan, we've mentioned it so many times already in the first 2 games. It can be a difference maker. 1 headshot, 95 damage. It changes a fight almost immediately. And that is in the hands of 07, so if they can hit a few shots here, And that might be the difference maker, but E6 are going to try and make their move. They try and use the grav lift just to avoid all of the Bangalore rolls coming down, and they are going to land on their side of the wall, and now they can spray, now they can pray, and see if they can pick up the KP onto 07.
So much damage being done, so many teams being involved in this one as well, but who's going to take it here?
Element 6 will be eliminated. Cold will be eliminated as well. It's 07 who survive all of that carnage. Amphi still has the wingman. He also has some smokes to play with, but it's a 2v2 situation now. Nasky gets the shield swap as well. And now, look at the angles being taken by Amphi. The controller man, who was picked up to do exactly this, is moving in to close this game out. 07 win 2 games already today out of the 3. Stormpoint, the issues have been addressed.
What a performance from 07 as well. They held that side of the building for so long. They created cover, like unnatural cover, using the respawn beacon just to delay a little bit more when they had to push. But then it comes down to when it's a 3v3v3v3 like that, when there's 4 teams that are fighting and the Dark Veil start to arrive and the smoke start to go down, you need to be looking at your controller players. You need to be looking at your players who can hit those shots in those kind of zones, because the damage output is so important. It scares teams away and it keeps you alive. Fair play to Passion. They gave it a good go coming out of that building. I thought they would be griefed a little bit more, but they were able to escape and take the position off of Cold. But because they took some damage off of Cold as well, they were unable to get that fight done in the end. But it was 07 who played that one perfectly, really. And that's 2 wins on Stormpoint for them, so they're going to be delighted.
Yeah, I think the big moment in that game for them, of course, clutching in the final moments is important in the 2v2, but just stopping E6 from
unfortunately. But listen, that match was so fun to watch. I mean, the action was incredible. I honestly thought Cold had a really good opportunity to win there, but they had to push first. I am disappointed that E6 did have to end up fighting Passion that was directly underneath. That's kind of one of the cons of being on top of a building. You do have to fight the team directly under you before focusing your attention elsewhere. Otherwise, I think they definitely would have placed a little bit higher. But I don't know, Gaskin, what do you think about that whole using the Horizon ultimate to go over the catwall?
I mean, I think getting the queue down is always going to be very important. And it just, the problem is when you queue up in the air as a full team, you are vulnerable to just everyone looking up and everyone focusing you. And sometimes it's about trying to act last so that you're unseen whilst all the commotion is happening. But as soon as you put yourself above all of those dark veils, the only thing everyone can see is you in the sky. So if all 3 of you do it, then suddenly you leave yourself vulnerable. Sometimes you'll see one player do it whilst everyone else tries to traverse. But because they didn't have a catalyst of their own, you don't have the benefit of being able to bounce between those dark veils. But they gave it a go. Sadly, didn't really work out for them.
Yeah, I have a lot more thoughts on Team Comp, but we'll get to that later. First, I am honored to introduce Church, the first Black female caster for NA Challenger Circuit. She's agreed to sit down with us for an interview. And I'm told that her favorite Team Comp is something called Meat Mountain.
Talk us through that one.
That's definitely one way to start it off, Stella. But yes, Meat Mountain is one of my favorite team compositions. Yes. Gibby, Newcastle, and a caustic composition there. just absolutely gets the people going, especially for charity tournaments that I've taken place in. And so every time I do partake in a charity tournament, at the end with our last match going into game 6, I typically ask my teammates, you know, how do you feel about a little bit of a Meat Mountain action going into this one? And typically everybody's always all for it.
That sounds like a great pizza name, and I'm really hungry now. But I'm actually really curious, how do you think that comp would do in Final Circles as we lead into our Final Circles talk for Stormpoint?
That's a deep question, right? So it depends on the confidence that you have. That Meat Mountain takes a lot of confidence, right? If you're going to succeed, you need to know how to position yourself with a character that's more bunker based and less movement based. So to be completely honest, if you wind up like 07 sitting in end zone very early and you do have a composition such as Meat Mountain, you're more than likely going to succeed going into that final zone. So I think it entirely depends on RNG and positioning.
I'm going to jump in with a question for you now, Church. Firstly, hello. It's been lovely to very briefly meet you before the show. Let's talk about what we've seen from 07 so far, because I think it was very interesting that we've had the interview before the with Nasky before things got underway, and he was talking about, hey, we've got some really good spots, we'll be able to control things, and we're starting to work things out, and things are starting to feel right. And then today, that's kind of come to fruition, right? We've seen a really strong performance, 2 wins out of 3. What do you think has been the secret to success for them so far?
I mean, I can tell you right now in my notes, I jotted down patience about 7 billion times, especially coming from Nasky, who I had the utmost pleasure of getting to know during the previous TwitchCon. It's very surprising, and I think it showcases a lot of development. Now having 07, a very stable team of fun, energetic composition and team. I mean, Nasky, I think here just showcases what perseverance looks like and what it looks like to finally find a team that you mesh very well with. If you listen to their comms, which we all have had the pleasure of doing so, you can tell that it's always good vibes there for 07.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so let's go ahead and take a look at the last 3 games and go over the Final Circles here. Can you break down the action for us here?
Yeah, so I mean, going into match 1, you notice here on this end rotation for end zone, E6 takes a very wide approach and swings wide left here into this end zone on the southern side. And I mean, you can't help but notice that Slab goes absolutely nuclear here, sending it with the Havoc, taking their time with this approach. As you can see, you have them sitting on the edge, but they get that location. They start to notice the action over there at the building, and the shots out of K20 allows E6 to fly in and create this entry. The entry damage was there, however, as I mentioned, Slab flies in, Cracked flies in, double Havoc with Turbo, and they just clean it up. But 07 being incredibly patient here, they notice this, and Nogs comes in and gets an early immediate entry knock. And that, I think, just is the reason why they were able to clean this up here. With 07's patience sitting here for so long, it winds up paying off, and they're able to clean it up. K20 unfortunately does go down, swinging for the fences, trying to get it done, but 07 again, I think the entry knocked there by Nags just does it. Now for match 2, it was a northern zone, which definitely surprised me, as we've seen a lot of southern zones. But as you can see, aimbot here fighting for their lives. I mean, they sat here for so long. It was incredibly impressive how they were able to stay alive, get KP along the way, all while just continuing to gain placement points as well. So the chaos ensues. We do have OAH cleaning out the trenches and positioning themselves incredibly well for end zone, which is how they're able to come in here and take this third-party opportunity from INF, which INF valiantly does secure 3rd place here. However, when it comes down to it, Alliance is going to do what Alliance does best, especially showing up for Yuki here in his last performance for Alliance. They pull the ultimate Obi-Wan Kenobi move and say, I have the high ground, and go absolutely crazy, closing out match 2. Being patient again, it's another key word here. They took their time, they observed, they poked, they caused chaos without being fully present, and I think that's how they cleaned it up as well as they did. Now, match 3, I was speechless for quite some time. There was so much action the entire time. I love zones like this because you get to truly see how players react, right? It's not always just sitting in and waiting for time to come by. 07 does that very well here, sitting below the building, hugging that wall. However, there were so many teams that had to actively react to new players, new environments like this cat wall coming out, end zone, and trying to be as reactive as possible. E6 does a great job with this Bloodhound ult. They've been utilizing it very well. However, dropping down, as Stella did mention, you know, having to fight 2 teams coming down low is very difficult. 07, the patience and just the trust in their team, I think, is what's showcased here very well. You have Nasky, and I believe that was Amphi, doing a brilliant job of staying alive. I'm sure the comms were incredibly hectic. You do have Nasky with the transfer if needed, but however, they get the armor swaps, and the controller demon with a wingman with a digital threat just will not be stopped in a situation like this, especially when you have a 1v2 to clean it up.
Oh my God, amazing. Thank you so much for leading us through that. Now, Gaskin, I haven't let you talk at all to our guest, so I want you and Church to break down the series results.
Firstly, I mean, Meat Mountain and Star Wars references. Church, you're my favorite caster already, all right? We need to get you on the show more often for sure. Amazing stuff walking us through the final circles. Always great to see different people's point of view. As we look now at the series standing, so E6 with their domination, 44 points they find themselves on. 28 of those are kills, playing so aggressively. Just talk me through the bottom 10, though, from what you've seen, Church. I mean, there's been some struggles for some of the teams.
I mean, you guys did take mention of Vamo. It's unfortunate, you know, it comes down sometimes to RNG, right? They did try to choose a new POI to land at with the contest. However, a location like Northpad just does not have enough, in my opinion, to succeed. We do see that in match 1, Kashara lands and finds 3 P2020s off drop. So I think that's definitely something to take note of. Unfortunately, some of those teams did not fare well on Stormpoint. However, there are 3 more matches to go, and it's anybody's game at the end of the day.
That's true. Oh, and speaking of it being anyone's game at the end of the day, y'all, it's Apex's 5th anniversary. We know season 20 is coming out. I mean, we have to talk about what we might think is going to be happening next season. And I feel like I can't really talk about this because I have an article coming out tomorrow, bright and early, about everything you need to know about it. So I'm gonna let y'all take some speculations. And I'm gonna sit out of this on set.
I'm not speculating until I play it. This is me. I'm one of those people. I'm not reading anything until it's out. I will, of course, read your wonderful piece. Don't worry, I'll make sure I do that. But I'm one of those people who's like, I don't like reading things on paper because I want to play it and see how it actually feels, if that makes sense. Plus, there's the excitement, right? I want to be ready for it. I want to get into the game. I want to be playing.
That's fair, Church. What about you?
I think one thing that I'm definitely I'm hoping rather to see is a reduction in digital threats. Now, we know about the infamous Digi Day, and I would hope that maybe we can reduce the chances of that happening going into season 20. I think it also does create that need for Bangalore smoke as often as it is placed, and I think it would reduce the visual clutter if digital threats were a little bit harder to come by.
Yeah, I think these are all, I think those are good points that should be brought up. Thank you so much for speaking with us today. I cannot wait to talk to you more about NA later today. So thank you so much for speaking with us.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for having me.
Oh my goodness, what a great breakdown, play-by-play from Church. I mean, Gaskin, she was just shredding it.
She was just rolling through. I thought I was like ready to jump in just in case she wanted a breather, but no, she was doing just what Mark does sometimes and like absolutely blitzing through. That's what we love to see. Also gave me a little rest. I was able to just, you know, catch my breath a little bit and just rest my voice. But I mean, season 20, we knew, or we had heard that season 20 was going to be arriving mid-season for ALGS. And we were kind of like, all right, well, let's not talk about it yet because it is going to change a lot. So that's why picking up points now at this stage is so important whilst you know the meta, whilst you know how to pick up points, because everything could change when season 20 drops.
Oh, it is killing me, but I cannot, you know what? We're going to have to schedule a time to sit down and talk about everything tomorrow. So we're going to do that. But in the meantime, I'm sorry, y'all don't get to rest your voice that much because we're getting into the next game. So I'm going to let y'all take it away.
I'm just getting warmed up. I don't know about resting, Dan. We're only 3 games in, mate. Come on, we do this for 4 days in a row normally.
I didn't say I needed it. I just said I enjoyed it, which is also fine.
That's fair. Fair enough. I'll let you off on that one. But it is, of course, the end of Storm Point, and for us to change maps now and go over to World's Edge, which we've already seen statistically down from some of the teams we were looking at before we got underway here in the pre-show is certainly a big change where they accumulate a lot of their points or where they have struggled previously. It's very interesting for me to see that 07 have picked up 2 wins and a huge amount of points on a map where they struggled in the first 2 game days, and now they're going on to the one where they've had success. Surely this is just paving the way for them to take home first place today.
Yeah, they are actually the best performing team in and on World's Edge in EMEA at the moment. 62 points they've been able to pick up on World's Edge. Behind them, ALGS and Hungary. So we've got our 2 best World's Edge teams in EMEA competing against one another, and we'll have to see whether they can continue to find that consistency. Other teams who have also performed very well on World's Edge, 2R1C, 48 points for them they've been able to find. Passion have been able to find 43 as well. So we're now leading away from our Storm Point teams, the likes of E6 that we were talking about, and now we start to look at those who might find more success at a little bit more structure and less about pure and raw aggression. And this is also the chance to change that composition up a bit. Are we going to see more Watsons come into effect? You did see the character selection screen there, the legend selection, a few Watsons being picked and chosen, and we'll have to see if they come into effect.
Oh, here we go. We're seeing the players and the teams dropping. Keeping our eyes, of course, on contests. It's going to be a very similar story to what we told at the top of the show. Is it going to be worth the contest for some of these teams? Are there going to be some changes of POIs? And is Overlook going to be the place that we're looking first? And the answer is yes, because Aftermath are going to be taking the fight against LVH here. It is a contest, and it is going to be one which I think probably has more on the line here for Aftermath than it does for LVH.
Well, Aftermath with the RE45. I love the RE45 in the early stages, by the way. It's kind of replaced the alternator for me. And look how aggressive they're trying to be at picking up from this initial damage. And tries to hide in the smoke, but doesn't get the kill just. Oh, finally. Okay, they do trade out, and it's going to be 2 versus 2.
I was just as surprised as everybody was there, where I just saw a player stood there, presuming they don't have a gun, by the way, off drop, you would imagine. But at the moment, it's going to be Vibes who's trying to hold off an army pushing. But look at Jay Hanzo. He's got a little flank going on here. Lifen has gone down, and now it's all up to Vibes. But he does have a peacekeeper. Oh, no, he's only got a Sentinel and a flatline to work with. So we'll have to see if he can hit some big shots. But a Sentinel can change fights, Dan. But it's about hitting the shot. You can't afford in this situation, with 2 players alive, to not swing together and let him pick you off one by one.
Is playing the conduit as well, so that does help you with shields if you can take that initial damage, then quickly pop the Q. But they're playing this slow, they're playing this careful, and I love this. Force him away from the knockdown, but the 70 does chunk, and it chunks again.
No ammo. No ammo, unfortunately. LVH will lose that
excited.
One. And that's why, that's why we're going to see maybe them with a little bit of a less points total than they do have on Storm Point. That contest is hurting them, but we have seen, if they can pick one up, they certainly know how to get the game done. So Aftermath are going to come out on top here at Overlook. Elsewhere, it looks like it's pretty quiet elsewhere for contests. But speaking of zone, Dan, where are we going? Where are we going to see our endgame taking place?
We are heading, Marcus, to the northeast of World's Edge, up towards Climatizer, and maybe even further north, depending where that circle does pull. Aftermath, by winning that fight, will get ring console at Overlook as well, so they'll be able to get that information and then rotate accordingly. They can hug the eastern side and should be able to get into the zone and find some playable space. Infinite and Full English both had ring consoles to work with on the northern side too, so they've been able to move very quickly. And Vamo Cadet, who had a very tough time over on Storm Point, have been able to survive longer than 2 minutes and are moving their way towards zone, so this has worked out well for them.
Hey, I said it couldn't get any worse. Well, it's already got better because they played some Apex Legends, which is always a nice thing to do when you're playing Apex Legends. Exo Clan trying to work their way down the hill at the moment through Epicenter, maybe thinking about taking that height, but it might be a team that they have to deal with in the vicinity. Elsewhere, look what's happening over at Geyser. A couple of teams, I should say 3 teams, have decided to say hello. And I tell you what, Red Dragon just got caught crossing the road and not looking both ways. They just got mowed down in the middle of things.
That was ridiculous and always very frustrating as well when you lose a player just because you're trying to make your rotation. You don't realize how many squads are in the area. That's why you have to keep your ears to the ground. Arkstar takes off the door. And this isn't really a great spot to be for any of these teams at the moment. I mean, Geyser, sure, you can survive here and you're in the next zone, but what happens afterwards? And you're also making a lot of noise. There are still more southern teams to start rotating here, and they might try and join this.
I think my only thought process is maybe some teams are looking to hit an evac round to the back of Overlook and rotate round the edge of zone to Climatizer, but everyone had the same idea and met up at the same time, and one team thought, hey, we can third party this, and then all of a sudden we've got a standoff happening where nobody's really winning, to be honest with you. And I'm sure that Cold right now, who landed over at Stacks, have just walked through and gone, why are there 3 teams in Geyser? They're probably just as confused as anyone in the lobby.
I can hear it in Graceful's voice. I can hear him saying, why are there 3 teams in Geyser, as they suddenly decide to go back to Big Mord, and it is not worth it. Yeah, it is not worth trying to go through it, but they also know that down at Stacks, 40% worse are going to be in the area, so they are just going back towards another team potentially here. So I'm interested to see how they plan this rotate.
Well, they might be waiting to see if they can hit Zone 3 Beacon. You can see there is a ring console over at Big Mord, so maybe that's the play for them. 40% worse, maybe thinking about doing the same thing, so we might see that little bit of an engagement. 07, though, they have made their play, and it's going to be a play to try and take this off of Full English, but it's all up to Nags now on the Conduit. 2 teammates have fallen. On the Catalyst, though, he's going to be able to peek in and out of these walls. He's going to try and bait one in. He does some good damage, but the shields are being stripped away. 07 will be eliminated. Storm Point was beautiful for them. Full English hold their ground, but ExoClan are looking to move in now and maybe pick up these pieces.
Oh, interesting. Exo didn't push the third party initially. They actually went to the wrong place, but now they're trying to push it. They realize that these rocks could be game-winning rocks. This is why we're seeing so much action happening here. Everyone knows what a position this could be for the end game. Young Hong Kong taking a lot of damage, but it doesn't matter. The rest of the team is able to do it as ExoClan get the damage, but now Vamo Korea are also in the vicinity, looking to maybe try and take the pieces off of this.
I mean, Young Hong Kong has forgotten that there's still some players alive here, and Vamo Carrera is still in the area as well. ExoClan will be eliminated. Haven't seen Full English go down yet, and that's because Noises is more clutch than everyone. He manages to get into a position to win the fight, but now you are seeing Vamo Carrera approach. Shera goes down, but Full English will be eliminated. And it's one of those frustrating situations, I think, for Full English here, right? They are in the position they believe that is going to be end zone. They had the ring console, they win the first fight, but they can't hold off the third party, and then the fourth comes in, and it's just one of those situations like, well, what else can we do? 07 wanted the spot, they wanted to be aggressive, and they can understandably want to play like that and can play like that because of what they've achieved in the first 3 games so far. So they've got points total, which allows them to be a little bit more aggro, to take a spot, just much to the detriment of Full English, really. Just kind of the collateral in an unfortunate situation for them.
I was almost expecting another team to arrive, and like the whole game was just going to play out of everyone just coming for the northern zone and trying to get those rocks, just aping Apex Legends. But no, it is going to be Vamo Korea who eventually take this northern side, and you can see the reason why. Look where this circle is going. VQ now in one of the primary spots. As long as that circle does keep pulling towards them, they can hold a fantastic position, and we know that VQ very good at holding spots when they do get into these kind of areas. They weren't really able to do it on Storm Point, but now we get a chance to see just what Kashira and the rest of the squad can do when they actually have a circle to play with. Now, for Alliance, they did have ring console down towards Thermal Station, so they're well aware that they're going to have to traverse the entire map here. As same can be said about 40% worse. They also had that information, but it looks like they might end up walking right into Alliance here. They are going to be a little bit behind, and if Alliance continue on their normal rotation, they might not fight each other. Just depends if they hear anything behind them.
Yeah, I think Alliance have left. Alliance don't want to really be taking zone damage, but if they do hear them, they might make a decision to turn back, and they might turn back because not only 40% worse who are going to be on the crafter, Cold have wrapped all the way behind them as well. We last saw them having a look at Geyser and going, what on earth is going on here? And deciding to change their rotation completely. They might be about to come up behind 40% worse at Harvester and catch them off guard themselves. And I'm not going to lie, 40% worse will probably say, what are you doing here?
Well, at least they have the bubble down to protect themselves on the crafter, but you can see it's sneaky beaky time. They are slowly crawling up towards them. But now suddenly it's given up. They know they're there, and the commotion starts to begin.
Horizon went in, and now 40% worse are just trying to survive. They're trying to escape. Doesn't look like it's going to be happening, though, because JMW and Tyler are going to jump down onto Mandy. They'll take him down. But they have given up the high ground. Now, how are your meds looking, boys? Because Cold, luckily, are still on the crafter and still crafting some med kits. So they will be able to force 40% worse away. and should claim this crafter for their own. But can they finish off these final 2 players? Are they going to be able to do so? Are they going to be griefed by them? It's a decision that has to be made very, very quickly because Zone 3 is coming, and that's when it really starts to hurt. And it looks like 40% worse have decided, you know what, this is just not a good place for us to be. We're out here.
Yeah, the last 2 have been able to balloon out and will be able to start to try and escape. They're going to go evac tower onto evac tower and just try and get towards zone and try and save anything. It's going to be a long old journey for Cold, but we'll check in with them later as we do. Now everyone else starting to move from south to north. Red Dragon, ALGS and Hungry, Pest Control and Alliance are all moving at the same time, and the last player from 40% worse that survives is going to be able to at least get into Monument, but it's where you go from here, to be honest. It's just about trying to pick up maybe 1 placement point, get into that top 15.
Alliance now moving their way up to the height of Epicenter, trying to have a look at ALGS and Hungry, and this is always a great fight. This is one we've seen so many times in the EMEA region. 2 of the best fighting teams that EMEA has produced, duking it out and kind of posturing up against each other at the moment. Interesting just to note, by the way, Vamo Korea in that God spot. I think it's something just to keep in the back of your eyes, knowing what happened to them on Storm Point. So it's real, you don't get a better opportunity to put points on the board than what they have in this game. Elsewhere, just outside of the position that Vamo Korea are holding, and on the outside of Climatizer is going to be Aftermath, and they win the fight against 2 Rats 1 controller. And I tell you what, there's still something almost therapeutic about hearing a Peacekeeper hit for big numbers. I still, to this day, it's one of my favorite noises.
I mean, it always will be. It's one of the OGs, isn't it? So it's always going to be satisfying because it just brings you back memories. It's a 5-year anniversary, so we can start to be nostalgic all we like here today. And then we get another view of that circle and where it's going. And now you can start to see why there was so much action happening on that northern side. I do love that Vamo Korea are starting to spread themselves out a little bit, making themselves big, making sure that they can hold as much space as possible so that they don't allow other teams to jump on them like Full English allowed teams to jump on them. I say allowed to, maybe they weren't expecting, we didn't really get to see it, but Vamo Korea certainly want to keep that for as long as possible.
Well, Alliance are taking the fight against ALGS and Hungry. They've already got that first knock. Let's jump into Illicit to see if they can finish things off.
Both inside. All you hackers. On the backside, on the backside.
I got back.
Yeah, inside. Don't let him get
my feet. I'm gonna put back.
One is dead, one more. One. I don't know where he is. He's still down.
I'm putting him back.
Yeah, buddy. Gold knock. I got gold knock. Careful behind us.
I'm watching behind.
We need to get in on the low ground here. Can we go back up on the bridge? We gotta hurry back up to the bridge. Yeah, Untitled Chapter, hackers. Take it.
I'm good. I've got an iron on.
Okay. I'm still loading, guys. You go back.
Carry the team behind us.
Okay, I'm watching a little bit of view effect.
I got balloon. I'm coming.
Okay. I'm only 85 heavy, but it's fine. We just walk in.
Carry the zone team. Carry the zone team.
Yes.
Know where they are.
Here are back south here. We walk in high ground. We fight for the grandmas. We can play super slow and walk this in. We're still in on high ground, so.
Yeah, we make a shot from climate, huh? Actually, no, we're chilling there.
No, we just play the left side.
Yeah. We can even
I
play
don't
right
see
side.
anyone peeking. I don't even see anyone peeking.
Okay.
Just carry.
I still have ult.
So Alliance win that fight very, very comfortably down. They roll ALGS and Hungry. Somewhat surprising to see, but I want to talk about the shots from Yuki, by the way. Whew. That was nasty. That was horrid.
Just a little bit filthy. Exactly what I want to see in the early morning here in North America, as now... Well, we're in EMEA, but I'm in North America, just in case no one knew. Yeah, we know by now, Mark, all right? Stop saying it. All right, Alliance are going to be in the circle, though, so they should be okay.
You're arguing with yourself again, Dan.
I can hear you saying things, Mark. I can hear you in my head.
Pest Controller dead, and there might be more teams falling in just a few seconds as well. 40% worth, somehow, by the way, still alive and back up to a full 3. So Zerafa pulled off the miracle, and Mandy, he's still got his massive inside the bubble.
The bubble really working out for them at the moment, especially with all the ultimates going down, but can he get to the rest of the team? Looks like yes, but Alliance do have high ground above them as another black hole now comes in, and this might be the end, finally, for 40% worse. Sadly, the Gibraltar goes down first, as always does happen, and Alliance will clean up the pieces. So 40% worse eventually fall, but they did get their placement points. As ANC Outplayed also go down, they get 1 placement point as we're down to 11, but now because Alliance committed to this, it looks like Red Dragon have got a little bit of high ground above them, but Red Dragon just a 2, right? No, they're a full 3. Never mind. Oh, they got a bow check.
They got a bow check. Also, Cold were eliminated in the meantime. If you were wondering where the team deep in zone is, they're now deep in death boxes as Red Dragon try and hold out Alliance for now. But they've got to think about planning their next rotate as well, because you can't afford to be caught in zone at this point. And look at Jukes. Jukes rocking the caustic. Kicking it back a little bit old school here with the caustic pick.
Yeah, of course, to pick. I mean, there's certainly warrant to it, especially on World's Edge. You can make it work. Does offer a lot of different kind of styles of play, that's for sure. Let's see whether it ends up working out for them. But Alliance now up into the skies, and these Arc Stars could be deadly.
This is where Effect does his best work. If he can get up into that queue, take a position away, this is the damage he can do. ALGS and Hungry, by the way, Unlucky did survive that fight. However, I'm not sure that anyone from Red Dragon is going to survive what Effect is doing. The entry damage is huge. Alliance need to move in, Hackis and Yuki to finish this off, but the zone at their back is maybe just making them think about a rotate instead of just prioritizing kills here.
I'm starting to wonder where Alliance even go from here. They could try and wrap all the way around on the western side, but there's a team in the train cart, so it's not going to be comfortable for them. That would be their main decision, I would have thought, so they might have to fight their way through it. I do like that they are going to leave Red Dragon to it, but they start to get now grief from the teams that are already in there, and Alliance, even though try as they might to survive, it's looking pretty dismal.
Trying to buy time at the moment. Red Dragon trying to swing round. Look at Hackis though. Oh my goodness. Red Dragon swung into death. And now Hackis tries to hit the evac tower. He hasn't got any shields or anything to play with. He's going to fall. Unfortunate for Alliance, they will fall. A rough zone for them to try and get into. Good KP on their way forward, though, Dan. You'll take those points.
Yeah, I think they'll take a top 10 and some good KP. They've done really well from Thermal Station. Now 8 squads, because ALGS and Hungry have gone down, as the Cybercats, with the Caustic and the Wraith, are going to be holding down this position. Now, one thing that having the Wraith to them and available is now the Portal could be a big factor for their rotation here and could really help them in the late game.
Yeah, I thought we were kicking it old school. I'm seeing Wraith and Caustic on my screen in 2024. They really
5-year
are bringing it
anniversary,
back a little
baby.
bit. It's true. It is the anniversary edition. Mind eliminated in the meantime, as we see a lot of damage being done as Element 6, surprise, surprise, are alive. They have a red shield on one of their players, and it's time to send Slamming to do what he does best, and that is output damage in the highest way possible. They will clear up a lot of damage. They will take a spot, but there's still one player alive in and around them. They need to find him, and they need to clear it up.
E6 are such a unit. They play so well together, just in tandem. Everyone focusing the same target, and it's like going up against 3 guns every single fight you find yourself in against them. They are always making sure they're hitting the right spots. And I think the E6 are going to be in a good spot here for this game as well, because they can wrap East. They're only being held out by, I think, Aftermath are going to be the only team that will stop them. But with how they've just been forcing their way through squads, I don't think they'll be too concerned. If they get themselves into the top 5 again with kills, they are still finding a consistent amount of points here. Their only worry is Infinite that are behind them and stopping them from being able to advance here.
I mean, the great thing here for Vamo Kadera as well is I'm pretty sure they're playing Watson in their composition, which means that Bangalore Ultimate gets kind of taken out of the equation. Smokes get taken out of the equation a little bit if they're fired in as well. Grenades get taken out of the equation, and it becomes a very easy game for them to manage. They don't have to worry about some of the abilities of legends that are in the game. Cybercats now using that portal, like you mentioned, to try and get into a safe position and away from the traffic. If they can do this, they can shoot back at everyone trying to move in, but Ranches will fall. Stay Healthy will be eliminated in the meantime. And now Zanaya is trying to get those caustic barrels down just to provide some cover.
Yeah, the gas was sent out as well just to try and grief those teams who were arriving, but Cybercats are being shot at from Vamo Correo, holding main position. As you said, they hold a prime spot, but there's still KP being picked up. 3 squads now remain. Cybercats will fall, and it is suddenly Aftermath versus VQ, and VQ have held this position for so long, and they are surrounding Aftermath.
They have great positioning here as well. They have a great spread. They're trying to make sure that every angle that they try and move from is going to be cut off. Aftermath trying to isolate one play. They do get the smokes down. They do have a digi, but there's damage coming in from the back from Kishira. Should be enough here to open the door for Vamo Carrere to finally not just put points on the board here in the first game on World's Edge, but pick up a first win. Vamo Carrere return to the fore and finally find some form.
Welcome back. Post-kill, they finally were able to play some Apex Legends. They weren't being contested. They were able to get into a position. And remember, they played for that northern spot. They heard all the fighting that was happening, and they ensured that they joined that fight at the right time, and they get the victory because of it. And you were quite right. They're playing that Watson. They were able to take a lot of space and hold a lot of teams back. And as soon as that circle continued to pull north, all the teams that were on the southern side just had to look up and see, oh, all right, there's already a team there that's doing the damage to us. And it was just a matter of picking up KP if you were one of the other teams. There was still a chance for Aftermath at the end, but because you were right, the spread that we saw from Vamo Korea, it was like a cheese board at Christmas, Mark. It was absolute perfection.
Cheese board at Christmas, the new tactical formation, which is actually in the art of war. But anyway, let's talk about some of the other performers in this game, Dan, because it was obviously a vital performance, right, for Vamokere in that game. It was you win or nothing for them almost after the first 3 games on Store Point, and how they really just didn't get their foot in the game, let alone on the gas. And I think for them to win that game is not only a great sign for them moving forward, but I think you're looking at teams like Element 6, and I kind of feel a little bit bad for Full English, because they took that initial spot. They had ring console. They won the first fight against 07. They managed to hold off a third party as well, but it was the fourth party that came in that was, of course, VQ, who managed to win the game, that they just weren't able to kind of sustain those kills and sustain their life long enough, because we saw how valuable that position was. That was the game-winning position.
Yeah, I think they're going to be a little bit disappointed. Mark, we'll let you drop for a little bit, and I'll bring Stella in to chat about that game as well. I mean, Stella, we saw so much commotion happening on the northern side, but we can see why it happened, because Vamokere, they got that position, and they won because of it.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, Onset brings up a good point about how it really sucked for Full English. I mean, they were able to hold off on their own for so long, but it's kind of a waterfall effect that happens, especially on a map like World's Edge, where it's a little bit smaller, and it does end up having this flow to it, where if you don't finish your kills as fast as possible and move to a different spot, or at least bunker down with, say, EXA with Watson, Bangalore, and Catalyst being able to bunker down and defend, you have to either move and reposition or defend properly. And some of these teams just were not ready for that flow, especially after Storm Point, where things were a lot slower. But listen, everyone knows World's Edge, so it moves a lot faster.
Times, and I think that anyone will be terrified if a Bloodhound's coming towards them, because there's a percentage chance it could be E6, and I wouldn't want to fight them, that's for sure.
Oh no, me neither. But you know what? There are some people that might want to fight them. And yes, that is my lead into talking about the Challenger Circuit. Now, registration is closed for the Challenger Circuit Split 1, but guess what? You are going to be able to register for Challenger Circuit 2, which registration opens tomorrow. So that's going to be really exciting. So if you think you have what it takes to get into ALGS, give it a try. I mean, ANC Outplayed is one of the great success stories to come out of the Challenger Circuit this season. So who knows?
Yeah, we've started to see a few teams that, you know, go through Challenger, get into Pro League, and then are really able to compete with the very best. And we love to see that. We love an underdog story. So get signed up, get playing, and maybe we'll see you on the ALGS soon.
Welcome back again, everybody. The ALGS is starting to hot up a little bit here, down with 2 games left to go. World's Edge is where we're going to be, of course, seeing the action take place. But Vamo Cadet finally get to play some Apex, and when they do, Dan, they win games. First place in the last game, looking pretty good. Stormpoint wasn't their cup of tea, but World's Edge is looking a lot more comfortable.
It reminds me of, the Ascend of old. That's what Kashira did on World's Edge. They would find a spot to work with right at the start of the game, and they would just play it out. And I think they were even using, like, Watson in Newcastle back in the day as well to do similar things. So it's Kashira, it's post-kill doing as they did, but it was Sens who had almost 2k damage to be able to go alongside that. So the perfect game for them, but can they replicate that success? Because they even might find themselves in the top 10 now, but can they continue to get points? Because if they find themselves on another couple of zeros, they'll still drop into that bottom 10. They want to be picking up a few more points here to start competing and start climbing that leaderboard.
Well, let's look at the Legend Select screen and we see what compositions are going to be run. It gives us a little bit of an opportunity maybe to talk through what we've seen, Dan, because Stormpoint, it pretty much belonged to 07 and E6. E6 had a decent enough performance with placement and kill in that last game, but 07, they made the early play that you would say a risky play, but one that they saw with long-term potential to try and take that early position away from Full English, who were holding it initially. But of course, it was the game-winning spot, like we mentioned, and I kind of like sometimes when teams see an opportunity to take an isolated fight for what they believe is going to be the best position. It's a risky play, of course, but if you're confident and you win it, you see the rewards that you can get from doing so.
Well, can they do it again, Vamo Cadet, or will we see 07 actually take that risk this time and be rewarded for it? It's always disappointing, and I completely agree with you that they're going to be, a little bit annoyed by that factor, but sometimes that is Apex Legends. If you see a game-winning play in the early stages, you take it, and sometimes it can come down to just, are you going to get third parties or not going to get third parties? Right. Do we have the contest happening at Overlook? Potentially. Oh, there's a solo player landing split from the team, and it looks like they're trying to take advantage of that.
But it's the Horizon at least, which means that Lyfin can go into the sky and break a few ankles if he wants to, and break ankles he has. Not only has he survived against the entire team dropping on him, he's just forced all of Aftermath to drop down into the tunnel below. So Lyfin is just by himself, sent him packing. I love that.
Unbelievable. So they saw Lyfin drop in on his own, and they all decided to drop on him. They were like, drop on this guy, and he survives. He gets a gun. He got the gun first. He was like, come on then, let's have it. And he just gets up into the air.
What it was like?
What was it like?
This is my opportunity to get in the fact that Arsenal won against Liverpool today.
Right.
It was like Declan Rice, away at Liverpool. Don't know if there's any football fans when the whole of Liverpool was running at him.
Oh, yeah.
That was what it was like. If you don't know what I'm talking about, you start supporting Arsenal.
Well, it's like Aragorn in Lord of the Rings holding off the entire of Mordor. That's how it works for the nerds among us who don't watch football. There you go.
There's a more relative reference for everyone who might be watching. Anyway, Zone. Let's talk about that. Thermal Station.
Great for Alliance. Do they have a ring beacon, a ring console? I can't actually see, but Mind certainly do, and Mind are gonna be able to either stay at Tree or move over if they would like to. I mean, this could pull to the building that has the survey beacon down in the far south. We might see a few teams start to play that, and Cybercat's already making their move from Harvester. They had a ring console as well. Passion moving, so all the teams actually in the kind of southwest area did have that knowledge, so they are going to be able to move quickly and take prime position.
Yeah, a little bit of a different zone. I will say the zones today have been pretty well split across the map. We've had some extreme north and then some extreme south. We had a couple of central-ish, I would say, on Stormpoint as well. Exactly, probably about central as you can get on Stormpoint, actually, with the zone pull that did actually happen outside of Stormcatcher. But Exo Clan are probably thinking, let's not talk about that for now. Let's talk about what's going on in front of us, because young Hong Kong, well, he's got to be a young god right now if he wants to win this one. But there's one way of maybe doing it. Well, unfortunately taken down. 07 win that early fight, Dan.
Every time a shot like that is hit, I always think, what if? Imagine. But it never really goes anywhere, sadly. But Alliance, they were able to get any stragglers that found themselves over towards Thermal Station, and they say, look, this is our land. You're not going to be able to just walk on here, waltz on in, and take this position off of us. I think it might have been player from Passion, potentially, as they were moving their way down southward. But August and Hungry have taken that southern building that I was talking about, as well as Mind, who moved very quickly from Tree. So Alliance are going to be beaten to the punch there, but it was a very clear decision from Alliance. They didn't want to move out of Thermal. They were happy to stay there, and they'll be able to reside in Thermal for quite some time.
A little bit of crafting being done over a geyser at the moment by 2 Raps, 1 controller. Aftermath, who of course got forced down into the tunnel, are going to be moving through yet another tunnel. They're doing their best miners impression at the moment and looking for a little bit of loot. I think they want to try and maybe catch a player off guard, or if they're just going to take a little bit of a slower rotate. It doesn't look like they're showing for now, and to be fair to 2 Raps, 1 controller, they're far too experienced, I think, at this point to not have someone looking. You can see that Hyaka and Mizzy are both looking to see if anyone comes through that tunnel, and they'll be able to retreat very quickly. And I think they'll do their crafting, and then they'll say, hey, you can have the crafter afterwards. Elsewhere, 40% worse. They're having a fight inside a launch site at the moment.
Well, certainly after the commotion that we saw happening on the eastern side last time,
look at the comp.
I'm not really surprised that everyone's moving a little bit further south. As Mandy, you spoke about... You spoke about comfort picks. Well, it's from one to another as 40%. Let's see what the comms are like. Let's jump into a listening.
Sure.
Yeah. Come there, fucking banners. I don't give a fuck.
Come here, sit it right here. On this side, okay?
What's that comp? Yeah, what's that comp?
Look.
What's that comp? Do they have a split?
Bang, Horizon.
Okay, good.
Yeah, just sit together,
guys, man.
Guys.
You.
Actually, if you were not playing Bloodhound, you would not know they're close, and you would probably die.
No, that is true. No, that is true, Zara. No,
hey! Just wait.
Well, I'm not allowed to give out awards, but that's best listing of the day. I don't care what anyone says. Best listing of the day. Vibes. That comp just screams vibes.
Vibes. They are more than happy to camp those banners because they have been kind of griefed by certain teams on their rotation. So sometimes like anger plays a part in the way that you play Apex Legends. And 40% worse, very passionate, it would seem, about holding those banners. And yeah, we see a Pathfinder, and anytime Onset sees a Pathfinder, he gets a little bit excited because he knows that Pathfinder brings the pure vibes.
Yeah, I mean, let's just be real. Still, to this day, Pathfinder is the most fun legend to play.
Hey, speaking of Season 20, if we see a Pathfinder buff, I'm always calling for Pathfinder buffs.
Buff Pathfinder, give it a rocket launcher.
Give him everything.
Give him everything.
Suddenly, Pathfinder has a 100% pick rate in their ALGS with rockets on his back.
Exactly. Got like cannons coming out of his legs.
If anyone could do it, it could be Pathfinder, that's for sure. It looks like 40% worse have successfully camped those banners, by the way. The last remaining players did try and get it back, but they were forced back and forced away. Shiv's even chasing it at the moment because he really wants to get this kill, desperate for it. But then they're going to have to rotate through. So they do have a southern rotation. They can go down towards tree. No one's in tree right now, so they would be safe there. But then you force yourself into the choke point between tree and thermal. So it's not going to be particularly fun, but everyone else is going to have to try and do a similar thing, to be honest. There are several choke points towards this final circle that you're going to have to fight your way through.
Red Dragon taking a little bit of damage here. August and Hungry holding down the choke, which is just outside a tree at the moment. You've got a couple of solos knocking about here as well from Mind. I think I'm trying to have a little look at this. And Mind indeed were having a look, but they have lost a player on their way forward, so it might be just a case of maybe hitting the crafter. They don't, of course, have the conduit to get the banner back, so it's have to be done a little bit more manually, shall we say.
They have the crypto, though, so...
They do have the crypto, excuse me. I stand corrected. Thank goodness you're here.
Well, still a chance, but I mean, it's not exactly a guarantee like it would be with a support legend like Conduit, so... They're going to attempt it. I can actually see on the map now the beacon has been sent out, so I'll keep you guys updated whether they get it or not. But it depends whether that beacon gets destroyed, whether the drone gets destroyed, excuse me. As Full English are in thermal station, so they're going to hold the far northeast of this current circle. And most teams have made their rotations, so it's just going to be about a straight fight, potentially with Infinite here, who are very close by in Harvester.
I'm trying to lock back into the game now because I really want there to be a hashtag that starts trending that says give Pathfinder leg cannons. But for now, Infinite, they're worrying a little bit more about the game in front of them. Stay healthy, eliminated in the meantime as we lose our 4th squad here on World's Edge. And they're in a pretty good position to hold this team out, but a little bit of crafting is going to be accepted as the smokes go down, which is going to completely nullify any line of sight for them. But 2 rats, 1 controller. Oh, make it. Come on, Missy, run.
Grab him.
Oh, goodness.
Hashtag let Pathfinder finish his story is what is going to be on social. That's another fan base who will know what I'm talking about. We don't need to go into that. But so all these teams who have been moving from this southeast side, by the way, are all going to start to meet around kind of Lava Siphon area and over towards Tree. 40% worse, 2R1C, Cold, and LVH are all going to be in the same area. So there's going to be a lot of fights happening. But it's back to E6. Is it back to more shredding?
Of course it is. If you want to see a fight, you just go to E6 POV. Great shots coming in from K-Swinny as well. They should be able to clean up this damage. However, there is a little bit of damage being done from the skies. Vamo will be eliminated in the meantime as we see 07 going down and E6 win the fight against 07. That could have some implications when it comes to our final standings.
Yeah, I mean, E6 have been dominating the top of the leaderboard. I mean, remember, bonus points were added right at the start of this season if you are able to win by over 50 points. So they're on their way at the moment with how they play, and honestly, and if they can take out those who are close by them at the top of the leaderboards, maybe bonus point could be added at the end of things. But Outplayed are just going to take position on the hill house above Thermal Station at the moment. They'll be safe. No one's going to be arriving from their northwest, so they're going to be happy because that choke point above Outplayed, that's your main worry when you hold hill house. But it's about where they go afterwards, because look at where the zone is pulled. Now everyone started to commit to that southern building. August and Hungry went there, Mind went there, Red Dragon went there, but then the circle's shifting back up, and that's maybe why Alliance stayed in Thermal. They said, look, there's no point fighting for this. Let's just play for the shift.
Yeah, I think E6 are in a great position for this end game as well, playing up on that ridge. They'll be able to hold out all the teams who are coming in from the north. They'll be able to do damage to anyone who tries to rotate in a little bit later as well, and then they can move up and walk in onto the side of that platform when they need to. So they're in a great position. 40% worth, still having fun, by the way. Mandy on Pathfinder with an amped Sentinel as well. This man's trying to get me going down, and I'll tell you, he's doing a good job about it.
Just doing all the things, making you feel the feels, but can they get into a late game here? Because they such a good fighting team. Send it. That's exactly what it's like playing matchmaking with you. You just know full well you are going to be grappling in and taking as much damage and doing as much damage as possible. As Aftermath, speaking of taking damage, they've lost one at the moment, but they might be able to get it back up. No, unfortunately, the other team is going to have too much eyes on it.
Ultimate down to 2. Kurev trying to pop a med kit so that the zone that's closing behind him isn't too much of a problem, but this is just carnage at the moment. Look at Alliance. They're in and around this building as well. Kurev is going to go down, and excuse me, it's not Alliance. It's going to be LVH who are inside of that building. Vicious game attack always gets me. However, Lifen goes down as well. Aftermath will be eliminated, so a little bit of carnage happening and a little bit of heavy traffic where you wouldn't really expect it on this side of the map, but 2R1C are looking to be the benefactors of this, just creeping up from the edge of zone and trying not to show too much presence.
Yeah, this was just because of the delayed rotation from 40% worse, really, because they decided to move a little bit later. They stuck on those banners. It meant that there's more congestion here. There's more teams all moving at the same time. 2R1C, LVH, Full English are close by, and then 40% worse have been able to pass on through, but it's whether they can actually survive because they're going to be greeted by Mind.
I'm calling it right now, by the way, as we see a little bit of a swing coming in behind, but Hyaka with some great shots with that Havoc is going to slow that down completely. Cat Qs go down as well. The piercing spikes will stop any kind of push that does start to come through, but Hyaka, he's hungry for some kills here. You can see he's trying to move up, and it's going to be LVH who are now in an absolute shambles. They lose one. Vice has only got a little bit of shield left. Hanzo's got none. He's on health, but pops that battery, and it looks like 2R1C will be able to hold off that push. But back to the point I was making, I can see this game ending, by the way, with grapple into the sky, no scope from Mandy. Just saying.
I'll tell you what,
just saying.
If it happens, then we will call you a prophet. But for now, I'm looking at LVH and their ability to survive here. The reason why 2R1C didn't jump on LVH is because Full English are quite nearby here, over towards the southern tip of Harvester, and now Full English should pick up the pieces onto LVH, and then they can make their rotation. So that was clever from 2R1C. They didn't need the kills that badly. Now they make their rotation and hopefully pick up some pieces. Let's see if they can do so. Let's jump into a listening with 2R1C.
Be careful, I cannot go forward. I'm going back. I'm healing.
Stuck here, bro. I'm stuck here. Very good.
Enemy vanguard. Is safe for you, Mizzy? Yeah, safe for here.
Bro, we need to kill these guys on bottom now.
Crack one.
Can we kill? Kill.
Not the team in front. Don't.
Lift him, Maven, lift him. Bangalore one. Bangalore dead.
Don't drop.
I need to drop, bro. I'm fucked.
Watson one. Dead. Last guy.
I'm with you.
Nice.
I'm stopping this.
Fight him behind the fence. We need to deal with that.
Yes. Enough. Go now.
I'm coming.
Drop me light. Drop 20. Drop me light now.
I have no lights. Let's move forward.
I mean, the comms sound pretty good. The kills look pretty good as well. But this is an interesting fight, Dan. This is an interesting scuffle on this side of zone because there's only the small part in the compound that really is safe for the next zone. And even though it's safe, there's not really anywhere to move from there once the zone starts to pull to the other side.
Yeah, you need an evac tower to go up and above, and then you're just going blind, and you're just hoping for the best. Yeah, and exactly. It might not even make it is the struggle here. So do you commit to this? Do you try and maybe use an evac tower to get round now? But 2R1C are holding out all those teams, so you don't really even have that decision. So I'm curious as what Mind's plan here. Do they have an evac tower? Yes, they have an evac tower. So do 40% worse. So all these teams can try and get over, but as you say, it's going to be a question of, is it successful? I think you could back in the day with the Valkyrie, but whether you can do it with the evac tower will have to remain to be seen.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure the evac doesn't reach quite as high as the Valkyrie ult does, so we'll have to see what's going to occur for these teams if it's just a scrap to see who can get the points and who can get the kills. Alliance eliminated in the meantime. A little bit of a slow start for them here on World's Edge after their win on Storm Point. 40% worse. They're going to be forced to move, though. Mandy with one shot can change the outcome of one of these fights, though. They're kind of stuck for now. They have to play for that side of the mountain, but the problem is they don't really have any rotational characters here outside of Pathfinder Zip, and that might be a little bit risky with 4 teams in the vicinity.
Just look at the defensive ability as well with all these Watson fences coming down, but 40% worse are starting to creep up on it. Mandy waiting with the Volt, waiting to shred. We'll get a slight lull in action to be able to bat here too. If they can take this position, at least they might be able to find themselves some more extra placement points.
One kill does get picked up, but his damage coming in from distance. No scope for the win. Oh, Mandy! Oh, he gets one. Did he hit the bullets? I'm not sure. Cold eliminated in the meantime. There's 2 teams left on this side. And it's going to be 2 rats, 1 controller who come in to really clean up the damage. They have superior positioning. They don't really have any problems. Mind eliminated. And now 2 rats, 1 controller can slowly expect death when the zone starts to close. I'm pretty sure they can't make it around this mountainous range at this point. So they're just going to hope that everyone else kills himself on the other side of the mountain and they can get a few free placement points.
All the meanwhile, Alliance were eliminated earlier. ALGS and Hungry have been able to make their way into the train station where their circle is ending. Cybercats and Red Dragon also hold the position. E6 getting aggressive, have lost 1, but the damage still coming through from K Swinney. He's the last remaining player, but that doesn't mean they're down and out just yet.
Does have the Digi, can play around this knockdown shield and this smoke. It's a 1v1, I'm pretty sure at this point. Gets the spray, gets the break, gets the flesh damage, and he's up in HP and gets the kill as well. E6 win the fight. Swinney's going to try and get the res, but he's just going to be met by nothing but pain. The follow-up crew comes in as Element 6 eliminated as ANC outplayed who pick up the easiest KP of the game.
So 5 squads. ANC, Cybercats, ALGS and Hungry, Red Dragon, and 2 R1C who may just be about to die to the ring. We'll have to see. But like, they're gonna try it. They're gonna try the evac tower. So I am curious
here. They do have the gold armor, so maybe they can pop syringes quick enough to.
Oh, they're going all the way around.
Are they gonna make it?
2R1C are going all the way around north.
They made it, just so everyone knows. They made it. They're fighting against ANC outplayed right now as we look at ALGS and Hungry. But keep your eye on that kill feed. It looks like they are taking a lot of damage, and it looks like they might lose this fight by the looks of things. They had to take zone damage, which probably put them in a bit of a disadvantageous position in that fight. ANC outplayed will hold them out. There's just 1 remaining player, but I don't think they're too concerned about it. ANC outplayed have got to worry about getting their way towards zone.
Yeah, start to creep in. Hope that the teams that were already in train station are going to be shooting at each other, but they do have the wall to play with, and they certainly find themselves in a great spot. They would just like that extra KP, and oh no, though! There's going to be extra damage arriving from those in train station, and they weren't able to get there, and 2R1C just about hold on, and they found themselves into the top 5, but can Hyaka get any further?
Well, I thought 2R1C were waiting for a slow and glorious death, but instead they decided they want to be a part of this game towards the end. You can see now on the map overhead where everybody is stacked up at the moment. Cybercat's in a pretty good position. ANC outplayed, still looking for that solo. I think they want to try and push this at the moment. But stepping through this wall is always a little bit risky when you're not a Catalyst player. But hey, where's he gone? He's disappeared. He's out of there. Hyaka with some magic moves.
Getting pinged furiously as everyone just trying to find any extra KP that is possible. So Outplayed at the moment are holding a good position here. The circle is going to be ending kind of in and on the train station, though. Finally, 2R1C get eliminated.
I mean, that is an Apex Legends rat trap if ever I've seen one.
Yeah, it definitely is.
Poetry that it's on 2R1C.
So 4 squads remain. The circle is going to end like kind of on top of the station. So actually, ALGS and Hungry are in a really good spot as well. Cybercats can play the underneath, and they are playing this composition that we spoke about a little bit earlier. They've got the caustic, which is going to be very influential in the final circle. And again, the portal could be big for them here. It could give them that extra ability to escape. It could be used as a distraction as well.
2 shots with the Kraber. Also something that they've got to work with. 1 bullet from that can really do damage to create an opening for you. Also, they're going to be safe for quite some time here. What about holding their back for now? ANC outplayed. They're just playing on the outside of the wall, and this might actually be a game-winning position now that they've managed to take care of this solo, because everyone else is going to have to fight, and it might be an opportunity for them to just rain down shots from distance, pick up KP, and then wait for the circle to do the work for them. ALGS and Hungry having to retreat. Kind of should be taken down, and Unlucky now left on his own.
Left on his own, but still can play a part in this final circle, especially as a Horizon. Cybercats now will make their way outside, and again, this caustic could be everything. If they still have the ultimate available, if the Nox grenade and the Nox gas can be used for them, could really change how this final circle goes. Now, outplayed, they're going to be holding everyone outside, and again, outplayed probably the most likely to win this as Red Dragon get eliminated.
Yeah, Nox gas is great. Watson Gen completely nullifies it, though. It will be eaten up like a very beautifully presented dessert at the end of a meal for them. ANC outplayed, in a great position here with head glitches to play with as well. They've only got the solo of ALGS and Hungry to worry about as well. So ALGS and Hungry, they can kind of grief Cybercats here. Any damage that is done could create the opening, and there is a potential grief coming in. That's going to slow things down, but they do have the Kraber. 1 bullet. I always mention how it can change fights. As long as he here can hit 1 bullet with this Kraber, it could change this fight.
Oh, they're taking a little bit of a chunk here. Looks up to the skies, but there's been enough damage here now. This is just going to be simple as for outplayed as they start to finish up the pieces. Cybercats fall, and it's going to be a top 2 for ALGS and Hungry, but it is going to be outplayed who clean it up and get the victory here in match number 5, as they should, with the position that they had found themselves in.
Yeah, really, really good job there from outplayed in those final, I would say, 2 zones. They managed to hold off and be aware that there might be a late rotate behind them coming in from 2R1C. Most importantly, they cleaned up that rat as well, just to make sure that they flushed him out with the Q to make sure that their side was completely owned by themselves. And then it's just a case of waiting, right? I mentioned, let the zone do the work. Let the zone force the teams to have to leave together. They're all going to damage each other. I had some great head glitches to play. It's almost a position where you got to win from that position, and that's exactly what they did.
Yeah, and potentially frustration on the other side. As soon as you see that black hole come down on the door there, and you're just like, God damn it. I mean, the one solo player decides to ruin any chances of us even trying to take this 3v3, but that is what can happen in a final circle sometimes. And you were completely right that Watson probably wins it for them anyway, even if they were able to escape. But again, we are seeing the advantage of Caustic. They were able to hunker down in that building and train station for quite some time, and they secure a top 3 because of it.
Well, they do, of course, win the game. ANC are played, and I'm going to send you a little breakdown. Just catch your breath for a few seconds and get ready for our final game of the day. Bringing Stella back in now to talk about what we did see. And yeah, ANC outplayed, presenting their case to be one of the best performing teams so far today.
Yeah, they did a great job of showing what it is that they do so well, playing together. I'm really sad that they weren't able to get first place, but they did a great job of securing second. And honestly, I also have to shout out Cybercats for actually utilizing their characters really well this time around. They were able to bunker down. You know, at the end, their attention was a little bit scattered. And at the top 3 squads with the circle that close, you can't be scattering your attention. You need to be focus firing. So as they are getting better, but I do hope that their comms are able to focus fire certain teams.
Yeah, I think you see the benefits and the downsides of Caustic, right? And I gotta say, I don't think Caustic is the best legend to be picking at the moment. It allows you to sit in a building, but when you've got a lot of visual clutter, when you've got Watson interception pylons in the lobby, the bigger character model, very easy to take down. The Nox gas becomes completely null and void because the gen's just going to eat that thing up. And I think it's certainly you could play a catalyst and do the same things, but put yourself in a position with her Dark Veil to cut zones in half and give you a little bit more option towards the end game. So I think that maybe people are trying stuff and overthinking things a little bit sometimes when they're looking at those kind of legends. I just don't think that Caustic at the moment, where he is and his abilities, really assist you in those end game situations.
Yeah, I think that's what I love about Apex the most is that the meta is always changing, right? But you can make certain characters work for a playstyle, but you still have to be aware of your opponents and how exactly that's going to feel. So really good call on that. And I definitely would have gone with Catalyst, but I really wanted to see some cool maybe we'll get a middle of the map drop. I don't know.
We'll have to see. I mean, one team who are going to be very happy with the second place, only being a solo, is ALGS and Hungary. On the right-hand side of your screen, you can see them there, managing to change a few less placement points into 9 overall, alongside the 4 kills they managed to get. So a very good performance from them. But the story of game number 5 is ANC outplayed, right? 3.775k damage is exceptional amount to be putting out, and I think that the way they controlled that ridge, the way they were able to walk into that zone is the perfect way to play that particular zone.
Yeah, I agree. I think ANC Outplayed did actually live up to their name and outplay E6, who is also playing around the same zone, but E6 just wasn't able to recover fast enough, and ANC Outplayed just swept in. We do see Element 6 leading today, though, with 41 kills, which is 21 points above 07 in second place, though.
Yeah, I mean, it kind of leads into what I was saying, right? Even though the zones might have been a few that E6 thought weren't winnable zones, they still kill a lot of people on their way towards those. And 41 kills overall, more than double the next in the lobby, kind of sums up Element 6 today. I think they've been superb.
Yeah, I do. Listen, I don't know what they're drinking, whatever kind of coffee they're having, but I need to have some of that. I also do kind of want to talk about that split circle where we saw 40% worse and cold and mind all kind of screwed on the other side. So I did want to get your take about this, because I personally would do placement over getting KP. But in that scenario, what would you choose? Would you optimize KP over placement, or I don't know what your pick would be?
I think if you're on the eastern side of that mountain range, you're not going to win the game, because you've just got to look for KP, because even if you survive long enough, then you have to try and somehow get around that mountain range with the zone cutting most of your health down before you even get there. We saw that from 2R1C, right? They won the fight, but then even though they had to make a desperate play to try and get around that mountain, they land in a position where there's a team there and they still are down health meds, so they're not going to be able to fight their way in a fair fight there. So sometimes it's about where the traffic is on a map, right? If you are trying to rotate and there's a lot of teams there who aren't rotating or are deciding to try and hold this side out, it kind of forces your hand for you. So the safer thing to do is play for the points, play for the kills, and guarantee yourself something instead of kind of hoping.
Yeah, I think what a lot of smart teams do is they know when to pull out of a fight. But I mean, we did see 2R1C want to be aggressive, and they had the comp for it. So
One more game to go, everybody. One more game to go. What a day it's been for EMEA. There has been some kill-heavy teams, and there's also been the resurrection of 07 on Storm Point, but it's been a little bit slow on World's Edge. But as far as expectations, I think we've got to start looking maybe at in the middle of the table at the moment, Dan, because it seems like the top three are pretty solid at this point, but there's a lot of room to shuffle those final standings about in this final game.
Yeah, there's a little bit of... Actually, I was going to say a little bit of wiggle room, but I think you're right. There is a lot of wiggle room because I think the biggest change was Vamo Korea getting that victory in match 4, taking those points away from some of the leaders, but also propelling themselves into the mid-table. And it means that there are a lot of teams competing for some of the mid-table points here, but you can very easily drop off. So Vamo Korea need to be careful as well. Another 0-pointer here, and it just opens up the door for some of these teams that are in the bottom 10 to jump up and take it right off of them. We've had 07 win 2 games. Can they manage to find 3 victories here? Can they get anything going on World's Edge? It hasn't quite worked out for them so far.
Well, just remember as well, if they do get that win, there is an opportunity for them to pick up a bonus point, which would be the first one in EMEA. We did see Fnatic picking one up in APAC North. Shout out, the first ever bonus point to be picked up in the Apex Legends Global Series. I think personally they should be sent a trophy for that. I'm not in charge of anything. I'm not in charge of anything, but I just think it'd be nice, you know? I might make one for them.
Historic. Doesn't have to be a big trophy. You can just...
I'll make it out of paper mache. Let's bring that craft back.
I'm sure they'd love it. And you know what I love? Match number 6, we're underway, and it's another contest happening again. It's going to be over towards Overlook. This time, LVH and Aftermath is going to be actual fight this time, rather than dropping on one player.
Rising queuing up to height. Ifin tries to go into a position to, I was going to say, do max damage. Then I realize he's got Mozambique, so probably not going to be able to do so. And it looks like Aftermath are going to be leaving and maybe taking the Vault Tunnel. So they had a little look, they had a little posture up, but nobody really willing to throw the first punch down, which, as we all know, I'm sure you've been in that situation before.
Do I look like that? Do I? Is that
kind of guy? I'm just saying, you seem like that kind of guy.
Especially wearing my oversized jacket, you know.
Yeah.
But I'm surprised again. Aftermath retreating slightly. They're not fully running away here. They haven't quite gone over towards Vault. It looks like they are considering it.
It's the rewrap.
They're kind of staying with it. But look at the armor difference. I mean, the purple and the blue against 3 grays. It's not advisable for Aftermath, but at the same point, like, what else can they do? Like, they tried to rotate around before, and then they were able to get away. So, for me, I would try and avoid the fight.
I would be leaving. That's all you can do, really. The problem is, like, where do you scrap loot on the way? I think if they would have gone into the Vault Tunnel, maybe they would have had a little bit of an opportunity to pick up a little bit more loot on their way. They could have, I was going to say, potentially crafting Geyser, but no crafting available at Geyser. So maybe that's why they chose to loot back and pick up the scraps that they could, which will be a little bit frustrating for LVH. Of course, they're probably just moving through and thinking, hey, where's our loot gone? They do have a ring console, though, which is going to be good news for them to find out where we're going. And where we're going is up to the northwest, Dan.
We really have had a variety of zones. Yeah, I love it. It's been quite fair to everyone, really. And yeah, E6 can be very happy at Trials. Outplayed, had the ability to get ring console information, so they're also moving up towards Skyhook quickly. ExoClan won't be too far behind them. As for all the southern teams, I mean, I guess we've had a variety of circles, but at the same time, some of the maybe southeast teams might feel like they have been a little bit screwed over, but you know, you can only work with what's presented in front of you. Cold, Red Dragon are going to have to move all the way across from southeast to northwest. For Alliance, I don't think they had a ring console down at Thermal, but mind, both of them do have survey beacons if they had any legends to use them. So it might just have to be move and listen and look to the skies and hope to maybe shadow some other teams.
Yeah, Alliance have the opportunity to... Oh, we might see an opportunity for a kill here. However, flash damage, flash damage, flash damage, flash damage. Oh, we got the kill. Fair play. Fair play noises. Full English do get their first kill in this game, taking down a Thon there, but they might be able to move up and finish these kills off, or it might just be a case of chasing this player down, securing that kill, and just giving yourself that extra point. But just going back to Alliance very, very quickly there, they do have the opportunity to go to staging and hit the ring console, and I think third beacon information is going to be really important for teams here, because yes, it looks like a Skyhook zone, but Countdown, the entire POI is still here as well, and it might pull a little bit away. So I think teams might think about playing for the third beacon, but Full English, they're on their rotate. Let's jump into a listening, Dan. Let's see what the English boys have got to say.
Just fucking balloon on him, I know. If we balloon on him, he can't... Yeah, he's on my red ping. I know. I'm saying if we balloon on him, he can't escape. Yeah. Yeah, they did.
He's right here. There's 2 here. I'm gonna land above them here.
Yep. I'm with Bryn.
Shoot the bloodhound for me, please.
I landed in the heads. I landed in the heads.
Flash.
I'm sliding it.
I need to heal. Bloodhound's 1. Try and get the knock. Just come back then.
I'm still
running.
Okay, coming.
With you.
I'm coming.
Bang her.
Crack, bang.
Was in behind us.
I'm gonna swing.
Blood down. Swing, blood.
On the bend. Dead. Where's left?
Last guy slid down somewhere. Over here. 36 flash. Back here.
I'm gonna heal Bryn. Down.
Alright, fuck it.
Okay, I'm dropping 2 Oxels here. If you need them, take them.
There's an Oxel on this guy.
Well, Full English get 2 down, but don't quite get the full complement. One player did manage to escape there for a few seconds. Red Dragon were eliminated in the meantime. As we jump over to look at another fight that's still going down between 2 teams who have been fighting off the drop for pretty much the entirety of this game.
Yeah, just so much action happening in various different areas. Fragment is going to be where Aftermath, LVH, and 2R1C all are trying to do something. Whether they'll actually be able to get... I mean, I feel like Aftermath have constantly just been running away at the moment, and like they're just being pressured and they're just trying to find their way out, and then another team arrives and they're going to be a little bit frustrated with that one.
It's LVH and 2Rats, one controller, who are kind of posturing against each other. Like you mentioned, Aftermath managed to run away, realizing they were the potential meat in the sandwich, but decided they didn't want to do that. They wanted to be a part of this game for a little bit longer, and it does seem like sometimes you have those games where you just survive for long enough, and then you might be able to walk over a couple of loot boxes a little bit later, pick up a little bit more third party something, and then you find yourself with good loot, and most importantly, still alive and able to contribute towards the placement points in the end of this game. But Full English, who were in a great position, still find themselves in 1 for now, as Dell will go in to finish off some damage. That'll be Infinite eliminated, and they should be able to get Noises back up pretty comfortably. This is completely isolated over here at Survey Camp, and yeah, they get that kill, they get the points, they're going to be comfy.
Yeah, no one there because everyone has moved in and around kind of the south side of Skyhook and the northern side of Countdown, and of course Trials where E6 currently reside. But this is where the most action's happening at the moment, is still outside No Name and up towards Fragment. 2R1C against the odds a little bit here, and I don't really like having to retreat through the tunnel, but sometimes you can only do what you're presented with a little bit. I mean, this far is so far out, it's even off of my map screen.
I mean, the good news for them is it's only zone 1 at the moment, so they should be pretty comfortable to get back into zone at some point. Cold are the only team who are kind of close-ish, I would say. That's the north of Lava Siphon at the moment in the bar building, but it's not really a position that's going to be even close to looking at something. Now, look at Aftermath go, by the way. Still alive, and I told you, sometimes you just find a few things on your route, right? A little DG threat being picked up. Tell you what, by the time we get to the end game, I bet they're all running in with Reds and Cravers.
This is Reds and Cravers. This is a scary situation for Passion. They have to drop off the high ground here. They're being pressured a little bit. I think it's Mind who are pushing them, and Passion doing brilliant 5th at the moment, and they want to just be able to get a consistent amount of points, stay in that top 5, and really give them a solid amount of points for the week. However, there are going to be a lot of teams that are trying to take that kind of same area at the moment. Look at the amount of Watson fences that Passion have put down, though. Really taking up as much space as possible. And that's going to make it frustrating for those who are trying to push in and trying to take that space off them. Elsewhere, Alliance are going to be just a little bit southwest of where we saw Passion residing. And they'll be okay for now, but when the next circle comes in, Alliance are going to have to move. But you spoke about Krabers. Well, Yuki, the last dance, has a Kraber to work with.
Alliance also have a survey beacon they could hit as well inside of Thermal, which as the zone closes might be very, very interesting for them to see. And I think that might be their plan. You see Effective standing up there at the moment. I'm not sure if they're going to think about that, actually. I'm not sure if they have someone who can hit that thing. So instead, it's going to be up to Yuki to get a pick. In a fight, Dan, sometimes, like, sorry to jump in, like, when you're in a last game, you know you're stepping down, you find yourself with a Kraber. Just saying. It's just funny sometimes how these things work, right? And
it's just ready for the montages, ready for the farewell videos that are going to be onto YouTube. Now, Cold are starting to move on the eastern side here. It's a good chance to jump in and see what the comms are like as they take a fight against Aftermath.
They're running here. They might, one could rat, but they're probably running.
I need to complete the box. I need some
Yes, get fucking loot, boys. Good job. Nice kills, boys. Are you MEK?
Let's go. Nice fucking nemesis, bro.
You guys just shit on them. Here's a Moby. Take that, Jay.
Yeah, would it?
All right, now we just go to the house. The duo is here somewhere. We just go to the house. Here, there could be another team here. Jake, you want to scan this?
Yep. Wait, I think I just saw someone at the top. Just be careful.
Okay, here.
Scanning.
We said you were hearing comms in Graceful's voice. We got to hear comms in Graceful's voice, and it's exactly as I remember it, Dan. Very positive, I will say, the communication. They get that kill, they're feeling good, and now they are moving up to try and hit some beacon because they got Bloodhound, so JMW can do this work.
Yeah, they do have the ability to do so. Yeah, I thought maybe there could have been a ring console for Alliance to work with the cat. Alas, there was not. And what's happening here? It's Pathfinder. Dipping, dancing, dodging, dying.
Not dying. Yet. Dying. Sadly.
Dying. But 40% worse are still just about alive. It's not been the best of days for 40% worse. The zones haven't really been particularly friendly to them, and they've also been griefed a little bit on their rotations. They just haven't been able to find their footing. Still alive for now, though, so I won't put them completely out of competition. It's 2R1C try and get ahead of the zone, but it is going to be Alliance who are going to be waiting to gatekeep them ever so slightly. Whilst we see so many teams that have made their way into that next zone. But this next pull is what's going to be the big one and make the big difference. Is it going towards Skyhook, or is it going to stay down towards kind of Countdown and Trials area?
I think everyone's waiting with bated breath to see exactly where it is going to be going. LVH versus Cold is something to keep your eyes on, though, as most of those teams are posturing up. It's going to pull right to the northern side into the open, and if you're E6 right now, all smiles. You can stay up in Trials, you can play the inside if you wanted to. You're almost guaranteeing yourself a top 5 finish from this position, and when you're right at the top of the leaderboards, feeling great with loads of kills and loads of points, you just start celebrating, I think, at this point.
The downside is you could be targeted elsewhere. Full English are still looking to try and press their advantage here. They have the GG threats, and it should be a simple cleanup as well. Great damage coming out from the R99. Noises doing what Noises does best.
Aftermath finally go down. I thought this was their game, Dan. I thought this was their game.
You thought they would find Reds. You thought they'd find Krabers, but they'd already been picked up.
Game.
The Kraber had already been picked up. And it's going to be Alliance who hold it instead. LVH also taking a fight.
Oh, that spray is beautiful, but it's not going to be good enough. LVH eliminated at the hands of August and Hungary. This is all happening on the eastern side of Skyhook at the moment. This is teams trying to force their way in. It looks like August and Hungary would have won that fight for the eastern side, but they're going to have to work from building to building. And look at the traffic inside of Skyhook at the moment. There's about 7 or 8, 9, 10 teams even still there. Mind, they're going to be playing outside of Countdown for now. They're trying to portal out, trying to follow a path here in towards the zone, but you know that there's a team up on height. That team is going to be E6, and when the kills are coming, and it's a frag grenade perfectly placed from K-Swinny at the end of the portal that results in death boxes.
I'm trying to think of what positions are actually playable in this final circle. Outplayed are in the kind of square building in the far west of Skyhook. That will still be in the circle. Of course, E6 at Trials. The top of Trials, the bottom of Trials will still work temporarily. There's the under bridge area that you might be able to play as well, but there's just so much open space. So we're going to see a lot of fights as kind of round 4 closes, if not just round 3 when teams start to force their way in here. But everyone finding a building at the moment in Skyhook, but they know that this is not going to be a permanent space. They're just renting at the moment. There is no mortgage on this building. Instead, they need to start thinking about the next bigger and better purchase.
August and Hungary, they're going to have to work their way in still through all of the traffic I mentioned. 40% worth still alive, by the way. Mandy, sadly, without leg cannons on the Pathfinder, is going to be taken down. I tell you what, he survives if he does have a leg cannon. I'm just saying. Idea is still there. Cybercat's above them for now as a full 3, so there's an opportunity if they sniff out that this is a duo to maybe look to drop and clean up the kills as quickly as possible. The only problem is there's still a couple of teams like 2 Rats 1 Controller who are looking at this, so Cybercat's probably why they're deciding not to play this, not to try and push these 2 kills, because one knock that doesn't go your way, a little bit extra damage done, your game's over.
Still a lot of teams that are just at the moment scared to make their move. As I say that, August and Hungary get sent on or sent. I can't really tell who attacked who here, but Cold eliminated, and August and Hungary will survive. Is there anyone else who can maybe jump on this? No, that was an isolated fight. But now everyone will have this information on set. Everyone will know that the circle is going to be heading northwest, so it's about go time for everyone. 2R1C are going to have to move on the far south, but they'll be moving right into Alliance here as Yuki hits the headshot. Let's jump into it, listen it.
You good. There's another team fucking...
It's fine, just kill him. We're gonna evac.
Popping the back, guys. Popping the back, guys. Popping the back.
I'm dead. I'm dead. He's being knocked down.
I'm on a wall. I'm on a wall, I guess.
Yeah.
Right behind this wall.
8 seconds. Oh no,
Where are they?
Behind knockdown. And one guy far left.
I'm gonna defend my back.
Kill.
Unfortunately for Alliance, hackers can't make it through the fire and the flames, but I will say he's still alive. He's got a Kraber, can't quite connect. He's trying to play in and around this catwall. The no-scope's not quite connecting. Maybe third time lucky. Well, doesn't get time to reload. And unfortunately for Alliance, and of course everybody who's been supporting Yuki on his journey, that will be the end of the road for them and Yuki on this lineup. Alliance will fall as we move into our top 12.
They might be the final bullets that we see Yuki fire in Pro League, which is a sad sentence to say, but at least he hit a headshot with the Kraber before he went out. As now we look over towards Vamokure. 2 players left, but they are being potentially pushed. They can hear the commotion outside, but they are hunkered down a little bit. They have Watson fences to work with, as well as all these teams now starting to progress in the same areas on this far southeastern side. Elsewhere, over towards Trials, a lot of teams are trying to take up this space too, because as we mentioned, not much playable area, so you have to try and take any cover that's available to you.
I will say Full English are in a really good spot here, because this is one of the spots in this zone that you're not going to be able to be looked down on by the team that's up on height. So Passion eliminated in the meantime. Full English, again, just being able to retreat to this little ridge to give themselves this cover. They also have the Watson gen as well, which is going to give them a little bit more survivability. But E6 now moving out from inside of Trials. They want to get some more KP down, and why wouldn't you? They get that first knock onto 2R1. So Xhaka goes down, and Slap, who has been phenomenal today on the Bloodhound, he's the player to do it.
Yeah, and E6 with the kills that they get here, almost guaranteeing that they will be the winners of this week yet again in A versus B. But can they go out on a victory? A and B proved to be very exciting last time we saw it, and it's not disappointing again here today. But it is E6 who still hold on as Vamokure back up to a full 3 and back full health and ready to try and compete in game number 6 here.
One of the beautiful things about this season of Apex, when you're brought back into the game, you can fight, you can survive. You're not just trying to do what you can with a white armor and swinging your fists. And speaking of swinging fists, how about eating some bullets? Annie Jax is flying in here and doing a huge amount of damage. 07 eliminated in the meantime. That'll be the end of their game day. We're into the top 8 here, and you can see in the kill feed as well, a couple more knocks going in elsewhere. ANC outplay the winners of our previous game, though, with 2 alive up on the height.
Up on the height and still doing work, still doing damage, still being a real nuisance here at the moment. And they take down 1, and they actually can try and send this fight if they would like to, but they know full well there is another team below them, and that is Vamokure, who they may end up walking right in front of if they're not careful.
August and Hungary eliminated, top 7 for them. Shiv's just been knocked as well for 40% worth, so Cybercats are trying to have a little bit of a better end game than they did in the previous one. But look at Vamokure. Managing to finish off a few knocks. They're managing to sneak their way forward as well. They might be able to third party this fight as well. And with that ultimate, they might be able to suck everybody into it. Huge damage coming in. Stay healthy eliminated. What an ult that was from the horizon. That's going to change this completely for them. They have a walk in, they have cover, and from that res, they might be able to steal something away here.
This is huge for Vamokure. 6 teams that are ahead of them in the leaderboard are all dead. So they have a chance to really propel themselves. At the moment, they currently reside in 9th. They are only, though, 4 points off of 5th. They're only 8 points off of 4th. They can really put themselves into the top 5 if they can pick up some good kills here. 4 squads remain. Full English is one of them. They also are looking to try and send their way up the leaderboard. They're at 12th at the moment. And again, they can find themselves in the top, 7 with a good victory here. So there's plenty of points to play with. But the one team that could ruin everything, it's E6. They are first. They will be winning match here of A and B because they are so far ahead of everyone else. But they would love to put even more points on the board.
You see they have to escape. They're hoping maybe someone does a little bit of damage, but it's actually going to be K-Swinny as a solo. And he'll be fine with that after all the performance they've put in so far. But I think the bigger picture here is Vamokure, having picked up 0 points, 0, barely being alive as we would see E6 go down, have a chance to turn their fortunes around completely and maybe finish inside of the top 5 here. Full English as well. Such an important game for them, but Cybercats have a wingman. And Alonzi If he can hit a few headshots here, he could change and dictate how this game goes.
Cybercats just went from 9th to 5th with those kills, by the way. That's how close it is in the top 10 at the moment, and these points differences could be everything with your chances of getting to playoffs. Cybercats in 5th right now, Vamo Cadet in 8th, and and Full English are in 11th. So these are all teams who really need these points. And look at the amount of Watsons. Look at the amount of fences that are down.
I mean, Vamo Cadet have zone, and I think the Full English want to try and take it off them. They get damage in. Serdell flies in with the Volt. Another 100 spray, but it's a 2v2, and surely this just means Cybercats can move in and finish off this damage. It's a little bit messy in the endgame here. Cybercats do move in. 2 squads still remain, but it looks like this will be Cybercats, who after the last game put themselves in a position to win. This time they do win. They call themselves champions, and at the end of the day, we have yet another winner here in EMEA.
And Cybercats send themselves into joint 2nd place from 9th place in just a matter of 3 fights. Incredible points total that they just gained, and doing it as well with Caustic and Wraith. Love to see a Wraith in a composition that's winning games, especially on the 5th anniversary here of Apex Legends. But even though they found the victory, it's still E6 who are going to be at the top of the leaderboards overall after their incredible performance throughout the entirety of this match day. But I tell you what, Cybercats going to be delighted with that. The amount of extra points that they just picked up, being able to jump from 9th to 2nd, is unreal.
Yeah, that's how close it is, right? And that's why it's so important to just play every single game to its max. And it might seem like a very simple thing to do and a simple thing to say and an obvious thing to say, but it's so easy to get down on yourselves. Look at Vamo Cadet, right? 3 games in, some teams would have completely crumbled after putting 0 points on the board, losing contest, and then all of a sudden, 1 win, they're back into things. And then in that last game, they're into the top 3, having res. Like, it is so close in EMEA at the moment. It's important to keep your momentum going through all of the games and not let one bad game affect you. But I mean, what was the final jump you said from Cybercats there in that final game from
9th to 2nd?
Well, I mean, crazy, right?
And that, it could have been even more from the start of the game, but that was just from when they took out the remainder of E6. They jumped from 9th to 5th, and then winning the game, they jumped from 5th to joint 2nd. So, like, that's a crazy jump. I mean, Vamo Cadet also jump up to, like, top 6 from 10th position as well. So you can see the importance of just sticking through it and, like, believing in yourself that you can get back into things, as you just mentioned, because you've got to keep that mental strong, because otherwise you're gonna crumble, and you're gonna allow other teams to take advantage of that.
Very impressive performance in those final games, and I got to say, a little bit of mental fortitude being shown by a number of teams in EMEA here, but I think it's only right we have to kind of give E6 their flowers down, because it has been their day. The zone probably put a big smile on their faces in that final game, having done so much hard work to get into that position, but from there, they picked up good KP, made good placement as well, and I think E6 are probably the team who are standing out the most at the moment in EMEA as not just like a dangerous
LVH, but they were able to get points on Storm Point, which is going to be important for them.
Yeah, Alliance a little bit of a disappointing finish. 13th place, for them. But I think the biggest story is here. I just want to take the second to say, Yuki, we've loved having you. We hope to see you back in the future. But changes for Alliance in their lineup. I'm sure they're hoping for changes in their fortune as well, Stella.
Yeah, best of luck to them. I am so glad that we got to witness their plays today, because they were playing really well, and I was so happy to see their performance. And the last match was really interesting. It's always so funny to see how teams slow way down at the last match. And I really want to give kudos to Cybercats. If we had a category in most improved from the last few weeks, I would definitely give it to Cybercats. They were really good at rotating early. They ended up getting quite a few kills on the board, and they were able to make a pretty good comeback.
I think Cybercats, for me, proved in that endgame that they can close out endgames. It was made a little bit easier for them. I think Fullinger sent it onto Van Malkader. They felt like maybe the play for them was to secure the KP as well as the extra placement point. They felt that was the higher percentage play for them to make to get more points out of that situation. So it was made a little bit easier for them, but you're right, like getting into good positions, they showed that in the last 3 games. And they also moved from countdown a little bit late, which was a lot of teams were up in Skyhook. So that rotate that they actually made from countdown into Skyhook was probably the moment that gave them an opportunity to win that game. So props to them on that rotate.
Yeah, I know. And Gaskin, I mean, the last fight, like we saw VQ just absolutely rush in and try to take down the other team, and Cybercats just came into third party. I mean, do you think that Cybercats might be able to take some of that confidence and move it into their next few games?
Yeah, of course. I mean, like, momentum, confidence is everything in Apex, and especially playing a slightly different composition as well. There was always going to be a risk, and it was something we spoke about at the top of the show. Like, now is the time to maybe change things up if you feel like it hasn't really been working out for you, and I take my hat off to them. They've gone for something a little bit different. It's worked out for them on World's Edge as well. The only caustic that we saw in the lobby being a factor, and it's very impressive to see teams just trying something a little bit different and making sure that they make a name for themselves in what was a very important match day for them.
Yeah, I'm actually a little bit worried, but a little bit curious about how Element 6 is going to perform for their next game, because A and C, we did see Element 6 kind of draw back and they were placed a little bit lower, but I'm wondering if this energy can also kind of be pushed forward to the next match that they're going to have. But I don't know if it's Group C that gave them a harder run for their money, or if it was just the day. I don't know, Onset. It could be a couple of different reasons.
Yeah, it could be a million different reasons. It could be they're running into the better fighting teams on their rotates. They're not able to run over so well. They might just have had one of those days today where they just win every fight, and that's what we saw, right? I think the one thing that always impressed me today is I feel like E6 rosters of the past have always been very good at being aggressive when they get some damage. They were very good at deathballing, but I feel like there was just a little bit more measured play from them today in certain situations, which was like, hey, we can get damage here, but we don't have to send. We don't have to commit to this immediately. We can let other teams influence the game a little bit more before we make our plays. And I think one of the good examples of that was the game that we saw on the end of Storm Point, where they took that height and then they weren't desperate to kind of force things. They were playing the long game a little bit more. And I think there's definitely some improvements in the play calls coming through from them. But as a fighting team, we know that they're dangerous.
Yeah, it's especially dangerous when you know that they are on top of rotates and they are watching every single fight like a hawk. But let's do a quick recap of the last final circles so we can take a look at what exactly happened in the chaos.
Yeah, there was a lot of chaos that happened. I mean, and we're going to see a lot of Cybercats happening in these last few games as well. I love this, by the way, utilizing the portal just to try and get into a position. There were 6 squads left when they made this play, and then they were able to kind of just survive that extra little bit amount. Now into the top 5, getting extra placement points. Nox gas goes down, barrels go down, everything goes down defensively just to try and survive. Now they're into the top 4, and they're thinking, all right, if we can get to the top 3 here, we have done our job. We're not going to be winning the game from this point, but it's just about surviving longer than others. Into the top 3, E6 go down, Cybercats, job done. They don't have to worry about it. And then we got down to our final 3v3, and this is when we saw Van Malkader taking space and taking the Christmas spread, as I said. Just making sure they put themselves in great positions to take angles onto Aftermath here. They even got the high ground over them. And sadly for Aftermath, there was very little chance of them winning this fight with the positions that Van Malkader had found themselves in.
Yeah, I think that was a great use of caustic barrels there for Cybercats, just trying to survive as long as possible. But again, that was the game where they got 0 kills, so it was a little unfortunate for them there.
Well, moving on to the next game, this is the one that was all about ANC outplayed, right? We saw the carnage on the other side of the mountain range, which all of these teams who are going to see on your screen kind of just let the teams get about their business and take each other out. But Cybercats inside of the building towards the end game again. Red Dragon get eliminated, and it was just the solo that was left from August and Hungary, excuse me, Unlucky, who managed to actually get into second place here, which is exactly what you're trying to do as a solo. Extra placement points is great. You might be able to influence that final fight, maybe pick up an extra KP as well. But I mean, look at this position. It's pretty much unsiegeable here with the Watson ultimate down, the interception pylon. Any nades that come out are going to be useless. Any Nox gas that gets thrown is going to be useless. And I'm pretty sure that the black hole came down from above, if I'm not mistaken, which just slowed this exit down even more. So the solo, I mentioned how they can influence end games. That was a perfect example of it down, and then it was just about cleaning up damage.
Yeah, it was just about making sure that you don't allow this team to escape easily. Have your crosshair ready and waiting for when they X out of that door, and they did enough damage. As you say, joined by the rat from August and Hungary, I think it was. It just allowed them to make sure they dominated this final circle and outplayed. Were able to get the victory because of it, and it looked like a comfortable and easy one, but you have to think about the position that they found themselves in and how hard they had to work to get there. Now, match number 6 is when we saw E6 again dominate with kills. The circle came up towards Trials, but they weren't able to get the victory because of it. And then we started to see the Cybercats go on their run. They jumped from 9th position to 5th position with that kill. And then they start to think about what could be. Could we get a victory? And this is when the full English full sent it onto Vamokader, who I think Vamokader will be a little bit annoyed, but the full English felt like that was their only game-winning play, was to try and quickly wipe that squad and then take the fight, because they knew they kind of had to move first.
Do you think there would have been a different strategy for Vamokader to actually fight back against them, or do you think that this was the best play for them?
I think that Vamokader they were always going to wait and maybe didn't expect this jump, and they tried to fight back, but it was the swing, especially from Dell. The Volt sliding down any sort of scenery like that is going to be so difficult to fight back against. But when Cybercats saw this action happening, they knew that this was just going to be a wrap. This was going to be a victory. Did they know they'd be jumping up to joint second place? Probably not, but these kills were massive for them, and that's going to be huge on their points total and their chances for playoffs.
Oh my goodness, look at Element 6 with 29 placement points, 47 kills, and 76 points overall, and Cybercats jumped up to second.
Yeah, Cybercats jumping up. That was one of the biggest jumps we saw all day, like Dan mentioned. August and Hungary, by the way, quite quietly went about their business today. No real big wins for them, but 50 points in total and 23 kills, still placing inside of that top 3. And I think for 07, it's been a little bit of a change of fortunes. We were kind of raving about their World's Edge and how good they looked, but it was all about Storm Point today for them. And I think the World's Edge kind of let their day fall apart a little bit. Top 4 is great, don't get me wrong, but when you win 2 games within the first 3, and then you're going into World's Edge, you're probably thinking we should be closing out 1st or 2nd place today, but it is what it is. Alliance do get enough points on the board to push themselves up to 5th, which is a decent enough finish for them. But Vamokader, I think, is the comeback of today. 0 points after 3 games, end up in 6th. What a performance that is.
Yeah, absolutely incredible. And I mean, we're going to be looking at the season standings so far after 3 series played for Group A and B. And Gaskin, I mean, take a look at these numbers here.
Yeah, I mean, it's going to be a little bit bittersweet for 07, as Onse was talking about, because that 1 or 2 placement difference can be the difference in, what, like 6 points in the overall standing. So 07 could have been a lot closer to E6 had they been a bit higher today. But still, I mean, E6, August and Hungary, 07, Aurora, they were all teams that we were talking about before any of these matches started, so I'm not surprised to see them up there. But the big thing is Aurora have only played 2 series, so they certainly will now be on catch-up patrol and trying to catch up the rest of the squad. Vamokader with an incredible day of action in both lows and highs. After going 3 back-to-back 0 points, they then get back into things and push themselves up to 11th in the overall tables. This is where you want to be. You want to be surviving. You want to be in that top 20 as the season continues. You want to be trying to secure that playoff spot.
Yeah, you bring up a good point about Aurora only having played two series, and oh my goodness, that is, if they're already standing up there, that's going to be incredible. Now, we do see Phoenix Legacy, another team that we were looking at, in 22nd place, which I do believe they're going to be able to bring their score up with the next one, but I don't know. So Go Next, we did see struggling quite a bit, so it's going to be interesting to see how these teams play.
Yeah, I think you're looking at Go Next there, and I want to give them a little bit, of love, because I think they've got a lot of progress to make in the future.
Yeah, absolutely. So we were talking about teams and we were looking at the overall standings, but there is a specific player on a specific team that I really have to point out today because they played incredibly out of their minds and brutalized the entire roster. I mean, like, let's take a look. I'm talking about Slab from E6 as the MVP of today. And I mean, Element 6 was just really in their element, if you'll excuse the pun. I mean, Slab was outputting a ton of damage along with K20 for his team, and that allowed them to follow up on a lot of kills and secure not only placement, but also KP. I mean, in game number 1, when they lost in second place, they were able to outdo first place in terms of points, just purely due to kills. They're able to work together so well and focus fire teams and secure extra placement. I mean, obviously communication when we did the listen in is incredibly on point. Their vibes are great. I mean, they're able to stay positive even when they're taken out mid-game. So, I don't know, I dare you guys to say no to Slab being MVP, but I think he deserves it today.
I would have to agree. I think this guy has been enabled on the Bloodhound, and this is something that I've been looking forward to seeing, is a little bit of a composition who tries to play something a little bit different in an aggressive manner that's going to counteract some of the legends that have become almost, you know, the go-to, and that's exactly what Bloodhound can do. It can offer you that. So I think Slab is being able to, like I say, able to do what he wants to do, which is get in and out and do a huge amount of damage for E6, and 19 kills across 6 games. It's a phenomenal performance, and I think he deserves it 100%.
Absolutely. And I mean, Gaskin, you cannot look at that survival time and say, oh, that's not a long time. That is a long time to survive in these high octane matches of Apex.
Yeah, I mean, E6 were involved in pretty much every end circle. It felt like that anyway. They were just involved. We had so much of their POV because they just get into gunfights. They're aggressive, but they also succeed in those gunfights. And there was even a time on Stormpoint where they won a gunfight, they lost a player, they stayed alive, they fought off 2 teams, they got back up to a 4-3, and then they got into the final circle. An incredible day, and, you know, Slab was a huge part of that.
Yeah, absolutely. Shout out to E6 for having a phenomenal day. But another team that was having a great day today, and a team that we really want to elevate. We actually have an interview with Hawkies today, and I am so excited to speak with him and along with our panel. Hello. Oh my God, your room is awesome.
Thank you.
Hi, what an amazing day for Alliance. How do you guys feel about the matches that you've played today?
Kind of annoyed overall. We should have probably won today. Even though E6 played great, I feel like we had so many opportunities. Like, we just kind of made way too many individual mistakes today, and kind of just, you know, being in God spot, getting picked for free, it's kind of annoying, especially when you're like, what, like 5 points from second place and 20 points off first. So definitely 5th place is not bad, but it could have been way better.
I think it's difficult to take, isn't it, when you have those kind of days and you're like, it's almost a what if day. It's like we should have done this. It's like, what if we would have done these moments? I mean, how do you think overall, like the macro was today? Do you think it is just those individual errors that's put you in those positions, or do you think it's something a little bit bigger?
I think our macro today was actually really, really good. We had like the game 3 where the zone hard pulled away from us. That was kind of lucky, but other than that, I feel like we were doing the right things and we were making the right plays. We just, you know, we can't die for free. That's basically it.
Now, it's obviously a bittersweet day. The last day we'll see Yuki in action today. I just wanted to give you the chance to talk about Yuki, what he means to you, how good he was with a teammate, any of your favorite memories of what he's done on the team.
I mean, I still remember picking up Yuki like 2.5 years ago in the ValGB caustic meta. Like, he was the best caustic main in Europe at that time, and like, it's been an incredible journey. Like, 2.5 years together, it's been amazing. I just wish him the best of luck whenever he wants to come back. He can come back, and we'll welcome him with open arms into the scene. And yeah, it's just been an amazing journey, and we really appreciate having him.
So sweet. I feel like you guys played really well together, and you spoke about getting 5th place isn't bad, but you wanted to do better. So what is something that you look at with these matches, and what do you bring to the next matches with having this